We is in weird episode Bizarro. What? No, I can't Bizarro speak. I tried. It was terrible. Welcome to quite possibly the weirdest episode of the Metal Lab you'll ever witness. And I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be an episode where you are not allowed to take it seriously, and it's not April 1st. So I'm gonna say that several times. Don't take us too seriously. None of the things that we say are good ideas.
Freedom, maybe freedom.
So, prepare yourselves for some good laughs, some good lightheartedness. It's a nice, easy week coming off of one heck of a weekend, and one heck of a weekend on the way around the corner. So, without further ado, I am joined by Tom.
Goodbye.
Mike.
What up?
Jay.
Signal Man is the best piece in Modern.
Tom. That's the best. That was Bizarro right there. And as never, we are not sponsored by.
Yeah. Do we want to do the ad read on this episode?
Yeah, they might be ashamed of this episode.
I suspect so.
We are, oddly enough, linked to hcrealms.com. Let's see how long that lasts after this episode. Your one-stop source for all Heroclix awesome. Check out the unit section, check out the forums. Discussions are there. The unit section is the ultimate database for building a team, tracking your collection, putting things up for trade. Just in general, everybody uses it, and there's nothing better on the internet right now. So check it out at hcrealms.com. And while you're on hcrealms.com, don't forget to check out Rock News under the Rock tab to find out when your next local Rock is, like the one that myself, Tom, and Mike are considering in July 16th, the Winnemac in Ottawa at the Comic Book Shop.
Maybe. Maybe we might be there.
It's a possibility. We'll see. Definitely worth a check if you're interested in going to the Canadian National Championship, as first place there does get entry into the Canadian National Championships.
Yep.
So, it would be nice to do that for free. But, you know, that's where you'll get updates on that. As well, click on the shop. Check out what the cool stuff that they have there, and put in the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off your purchase, and to go support this. We get a little kickback on that too, so support us a little bit while you still can. And also brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com, the Apex Insiders premium site. Check it out at MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. $3 a month is the premium site. Gets you access to some cool articles. I'm not sure if my article recently got up. I should have checked the site. I have been hella busy this past weekend. Hecka busy. What's wrong with me?
I like how you corrected Hecka.
Yeah, I know, hecka.
Hecka. No. Hella.
There we go. Yes, my most recent article is up. So check. And Amber has actually just started putting up articles on the site as well. And some even better people put articles up on the site, including Easton Brock, Adam Friedman, Paris Gordon, and other such past champions.
Hey, wait a minute. I thought you guys were the best around.
We're still Bizarro World, right? We're still Bizarro World, right? But yeah, check that out while you still can for actual good articles written for good information from the game. And we also have, as we exit the ad reads, we do have one more piece of reality to cover before we enter Bizarro World, which is, believe me, Bizarro World is going to be a weird one. And we went full wacky today. But today, there was another Superior Foes of Spider-Man. I keep calling it Superior Spider-Man. Superior Foes of Spider-Man preview. And in fact, there were two of them. So it's exciting news to get. Both of them members of the Sinister Syndicate, I might add. And without further ado, allow me to... Oh, come on. Oh, no.
What happened?
No.
What happened?
This is what you get for changing to Windows 10 and not checking everything, ladies and gentlemen.
You need me to screen share?
It will not let me screen share.
I can do it. I have them open.
Ooh. Oh, Mike, can you screen share the next segment?
Sure. What's the next part?
Yeah, we might need you to... Oh, my goodness.
Well, Jay's got the current one up, so Jay, why don't you screen share what you've got?
Yes, ma'am.
So, All right, so we have Speed Demon. Speed Demon does have 2 traits. The first one, superior to the other guys. This is common to members of the Sinister Syndicate. Once per turn for all characters with this trait, if a character uses the Sinister Syndicate team ability to replace their attack value with Speed Demons, that character can use probability control during that attack. His second trait, the Speed Shadow. When moving through a square, you may place the Speed Shadow marker in it, removing it from anywhere else. When Speed Demon makes close attack, he treats characters adjacent to the Speed Shadow marker as adjacent to himself. He's got special movement power, which he gets several clicks in. Speed Demon can punch you before you know it. Speed Demon can use Hypersonic. When he does, he can use Flurry as a free action instead of making a close attack, and a special defense power, which he has on his first 3 clicks. Speed Demon can use Combat Reflexes. If Speed Demon moved during your last turn, he can use Energy Shield Deflection. Everything else is what you see is what you get. He's 80 points, no ignoring for movement, Thunderbolt, Sinister Syndicate, and Speedster keywords, and the Sinister Syndicate team ability. Tom, what are your thoughts on the Speed Demon?
I think he's great. We see another entry into the world of the Speed Shadow. To be fair, I think I prefer Quicksilver, but still, this guy is a perfectly respectable 80 points. I do like the Sinister Syndicate team ability. I get the impression that as we see more and more Sinister Syndicate team ability pieces, we'll be seeing more opportunities to max things out. Like, I look at him and see 11 attack and think, wow, I can't wait to share that. But I'm also looking forward to the possibility of somebody else even having a higher one, or having a high one as he goes down his dial, so that when he's hypersonicking in, he can get next to another member who's already adjacent to the target, share their attack if his needs to be bumped, as it would at the end of his dial, and then get back out of there in good time. I like the way that Sinister Syndicate can work with hypersonic speed if you're playing with other tie-down oriented Sinister Syndicate pieces. Even when you set that aside, I still think he's really cool. I think Combat Reflexes is kind of neat. The fact that he gets Energy Shield Deflection after he's moved is great. It gives him some temporary protection, and otherwise, hopefully, you're setting down the Speed Shadow and then getting the heck away, so that, because he's indomitable, his first attack, he gets in there, makes his attack, drop off the Speed Shadow, have ESD to keep him safe, and then on the second click, he runs away, and then when he's running away, he gets as far away as possible and still gets the Speed Shadow attack if his opponent hasn't moved. So that's cool. I think he's a really neat piece. The flurry is cool, and the fact that he gets it with prob when he needs it, when his attack values are flagging, even better. I also love the fact that, again, Sinister Syndicate with the Speed Shadow is another cool way of using it. He can Sinister Syndicate attack all the way on the other side of the map, and still get a boost to his attack if and when he needs it. So I think he's quite useful. One good hit will either KO him or knock him reeling, but that's appropriate. For 80 points, he's a fantastic harasser that can break any kind of reducer that you might happen to have, and he's got just enough cool stuff to make it work. And for what it's worth, the his version of the superior other guy's trait is really quite cool. So all in all, I think that he's a very serviceable piece. I don't look at him and immediately think that I can't wait to play him, but I suspect he'll be quite playable as long as you're putting him on a good team that he synchronizes well with, and this set should give us that team.
All right. Mike, what are your thoughts?
I love that first trait. I think it's excellent, especially since I believe it's going to be shared with others. The superior to the other guys, once per turn for all characters with this trait. If a character using the Sinister Syndicate team ability to replace their attack value with Speed Demons, that character can use probability control during that attack. Sharing prob is going to be one of my more favorite things to use on this particular character. I'm glad also that they replaced Speed Demons so quickly after retirement. Because we did have a pretty good Speed Demon that was out of the was it Deadpool? I think it was Deadpool. Yeah, out of the Deadpool set, along with what was it, Speed Demon, and what was his B?
Wizard.
Wizard, right. So yeah, fantastic. Really like it. Has the new keyword Speedster, of course, and we're going to be able to use that ATA with him as well. And even when he does get hit later in the dial, hopefully you're playing him on a Sinister Syndicate team, and you are able to replace the 9 attack, but on the 4th and 5th click with something a little bit superior. That being said, I think that Tom covered the majority of what needs to be said on this guy. I think he's really good. 80 points, well worth it.
Awesome. All right, Jay, what are your thoughts?
I guess phenomenal is a good word. Just considering both of his traits being ridiculous, especially considering you can use his Speed Shadow trait to set up his other trait, and then he's always useful. His defenses are ridiculous with a 20, hopefully no matter what. And Indom on a piece that cheap and that can do that much damage is a bit craziness. And
Yeah, that is nuts.
yeah. And although considering how everything's being kind of cut back in terms of the scope of the game, I think he'll be able to definitely take at least one hit and keep going, especially considering he should be having a 20 most of the time. So good luck hitting him, let alone killing him in one shot.
Yeah.
At least most of the time. And sealed, he'll be very good
Yes.
piece to go for.
That he will.
Yeah. I think one thing that does slightly concern me about this character in the environment of sealed with this set is because of his lack of improved movement, unlike his original version where he had, I believe he ignored characters on the one in
Hindering.
Deadpool. Yep. We have at least one character with evidence that the symbiotes will have plasticity traded, which becomes problematic for Speed Team. Now, granted, that just means go for the rest of the team in a lot of cases, but it does still mean that Speed Demon is very susceptible to these characters who there's likely to be multiple versions of or multiple characters with that. Now, all that said, he comes in at a rare slot, which is where we're starting to see that the balance is starting to show itself or show its face in a way that I'm getting a little uncomfortable with. Because Speed Demon is not as good as Quicksilver, but is 5 points more, and just he doesn't quite, have a lot of what Quicksilver brings, right? But of course, both of them are susceptible to plasticity. There's probably a lot of points being poured into that Speed Demon trait with the superior, the Syndicate team ability. But at the same time, that's a team ability that only works if the other guy has a team ability or is a wild card. So there's a lot of factors going into that, and I don't want to discount too much of this character, but it does get a little worrisome when I see that trend mixed with the fact that there's likely to be a large group of characters with plasticity traded on them. But again, it's still speculation because the only symbiote we've seen is Carnage, and we have to see more before I can decide fully on that one.
Considering the name of the set, I think you're safe in terms of the other characters having the team ability.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah, because what we're about to see next also does say that there's enough guys with the team ability. It's just a matter of going there. So, but next up, we have Boomerang. Jay, yeah, you can stop sharing. Thank you for sharing. But I've got everything fixed up and just took a quick refresh. So we'd love to see your beautiful little face again.
I don't really have one of those, but okay.
All right. So next up, we have Boomerang. Now, Boomerang's superior to the other guy's trait reads much like Speed Demons, but instead of giving probability control, he gives precision strike. Now, this is one of those characters with multiple point values. He's playable 110 and 75. He's got the Masters of Evil team ability and the Sinister Syndicate team ability. And he's also got improved targeting ignores characters. Add on to that, he's got a special defense power that says Boomerang can use energy shield deflection. When Boomerang has no action tokens and would be hit by a range attack, you may give him an action token to immediately use super senses. So if you're feeling lucky and you think he can pull that 1 in 3 chance off, give him an action token and give it a try, right? But of course, if they have precision strike, then don't give him the action token because the super sense is worthless anyway, right?
Absolutely.
So, but then
I don't know. Boomerang's not too bright. I think I might do it anyway.
if Boomerang was controlling Boomerang, yeah. He's also got a special damage power. Got my own gang now, and they sort of listen to me. Boomerang can use leadership. This is one of my favorites because I read this a little earlier. When he does and fails, you may give him an action token. Give an action token to an adjacent friendly character. If you do, remove an action token from him. So it's kind of that whole do it. No, you do it. Fine. Everything else is what you see, what you get. The special defense power shows up on the first 3 clicks if you play 110. Only the first click you play him at 75. and you only get the special leadership on his 110-point value. He's got Masters of Evil, Sinister Syndicate, and Thunderbolts keywords. He's got 6 range with 2 targets. I've spoken enough. Mike, what do you think of Boomerang?
Boomerang. I think he's fantastic, actually. The leadership power is unbelievable. I love that. Remember the day they previewed this, we both kind of lost our minds over this, the ability to fail leadership, which we do a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And still be able to mess with tokens. So good. I definitely want to play him at his higher point value. To have those 3 clicks in there of the special defense power and 2 clicks of the special damage power, having ESD and the ability to choose to use super senses is also kind of cool. I doubt that I would choose to use that super senses a lot of the time, unless I know that I'm going to get smoked by that hit. Just because, I don't know, I fail a lot of super senses rolls, and it's probably not something that I'd likely take advantage of, unless I really thought that I had a better chance at it. The sharing's precision, once again, yes, there's that trait, superior to the other guys. Sharing precision strike is fantastic. It's so good. I really, really like this guy. I'm liking the set overall as they reveal it very slowly. Yeah, so good. Passing to whom? To Jay?
Jay.
Yeah.
He's really good.
What do we got?
He's a wildcard wet dream with Thunderbolt and 2 team abilities, which is always nice to see. Although I don't really anticipate many Sinister Syndicate dudes with wildcard necessarily. It's probably going to be more of a Thunderbolts thing.
Yeah, the Punisher does.
The Punisher. It's Spider-Man. That's cute. I think he's even good at 75 with being a decent taxi with 8 speed, because sidestep and then solid values and whatnot. So can't really go wrong with him at either point value. It's a bit disappointing that even though they all have different effects, you can still only pick one of the various superior effects. So
Too bad he can't pick his own with that energy explosion.
I know, eh?
yeah, it's weird how neither of the 2 previous years start with what they give out, but they get it later.
Yeah.
Odd.
I wonder if that'll be a trend.
It just feels like these characters are too competent. It's like it's Deadpool syndrome all over again, where the less competent a character is, the better their dial is. It's not necessarily the most comic accurate thing, but you don't want crap dials either, so I guess it's okay. But he is very good at either point value, I think.
All right. Tom.
The fact that he can choose to take a token to use super senses gels nicely with this being the first set that we're getting the dials print on the cards, so that if you're playing him at 75 points, then you know with absolute certainty that if you're about to be dealt 4 damage, you should probably use super senses. That's also the reason why I'm not personally a big fan of him at 75 points, because for 75 points for that 4 clicks, defended only by ESD and the possibility of super senses, doesn't really do it for me. I can appreciate that he's good on the output, but boy, can he ever not take it. At 110, I feel like he's worth the extra 35 points just to be able to be guaranteed to survive for at least 2 hits. And of course, he's got lots of ways of getting tokens, or at least to keep moving and moving. Add the token to use super senses. Use Masters of Evil. Just keep acting and acting and acting. You'll be at the end of your dial and using a wit before you know it. And maybe you'll want to be there so that your stealth can protect you and you can become more of a supporting character. I like the fact that that's where he ends out, and the fact that he can kind of go back into the shadows and manipulate a little bit. I hear what you guys are saying. I guess I just don't share the enthusiasm for such a short and relatively unprotected dial for the points. He does a lot. I'm just afraid that I'm going to go down to 1 hit. At 110, I can see using him. At 75, I'm not convinced that I'll survive.
Yeah. I'm also more or less leaning towards 110 over the 75. Though, if I'm playing the 75-point version, I pulled amazingly in my other pack, because this guy does take your rare slot.
Yeah, fair.
And I'm just looking to fill out 75 points desperately somehow. But honestly, given the point values and the way that they move, I'm pretty sure I'm still likely to choose 110-point Boomerang. That said, I like that even though when he fails his leadership, you are giving out an action token to take an action token off of him. That doesn't take one of your actions to do. So, and when it comes down to it, you don't need the character next to him to have an action token to try to leadership him. I'm counting on failing leadership. In fact, his ability is more successful 2/3 of the time. To give somebody else an action token, take an action token off of Boomerang. So I'm going to keep going with him. And even if somehow you're succeeding with your leadership roles, he does have the Masters of Evil team ability to keep going after that. And even when his attack drops, he does have the Sinister Syndicate to lean on. And if this set is any indication, if you can keep somebody like, I don't know, Speed Demon on the first click, keeping 11 attack consistent would be pretty awesome. I'm enthusiastic about Boomerang, but at the same time, I see Tom's kind of hesitation because if he does get hit on those first 3 clicks, that toughness towards the end might not be there to help you through it. But it is a 19 defense in most cases, a non-outwitted case. Overall, I see where Tom's coming from. I see where everybody's enthusiastic about him. And I'm cool with this baseball player who throws boomerangs. Yes,
Wait, we're getting a sports master?
No, Fred Myers was like an ex-baseball player and decided he was going to throw boomerangs. He's basically the same guy as Bullseye without being as badass as Bullseye.
But a boomerang is the exact opposite of a projectile that doesn't.
Look, man, this is based on the Deadly Foes of Spider-Man from 1989, early 1990. I don't know if they changed his thing since the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, which was, they have this Foes of Spider-Man thing, which is a very villain-based series that happens multiple times. There's been Deadly, Lethal, and now Superior. So,
I'm also surprised that after the Captain Boomerangs we had specific mechanics based around Boomerang coming back, like the Junior who would throw one and then if he missed he could make another attack, whatever. But there's no sort of mechanic like that here.
Well. Yeah, again, this is a baseball player throwing boomerangs. Got good aim. He's just not good with boomerangs. And if his character is weird boomerangs. You'll see there, you got the Exploderang.
yeah, they're not your run-of-the-mill boomerangs anymore.
No. But darn can he throw them. All right. So I do have to re-warn everybody. You are about to enter Bizarro world. Everything after here is not to be taken super seriously. We decided to go a little silly this week for reasons unknown, mostly because Tom presented it and I said sure.
There wasn't a lot to talk about, and I mean, if ever there was an opportunity, I also got started on a little project which we will get to in just a moment. That had me kind of chuckling to myself because there was no reason to do it in this day and age, and so it presented the opportunity to basically just take a show and talk about things we wouldn't normally talk about, like lousy teams and game gripes and weird occurrences and things that are not relevant to the current discussion. So by all means, it's going to be our Bizarro meta episode because it doesn't get any less meta than this.
Yeah. So you're not going to get a lot of great information about your next ROC event or anything else, though you might get a blast from the past if you've been playing for a particularly long time. So without further ado, do you want to introduce this iteration of Tom's charts while I get it all set up?
Yes, absolutely. Well, this game is, 15, 16 years old. We've been coming for a long time, and we've come an awfully long way. And I got to thinking the other day while I was sitting at work, I need to do something with this time that I'm getting paid for. I felt that I should do some more chart work because I never did charts for the Trinity War and I never did charts for the Flash. I kind of thought, that let's dig back and see a little bit of what came slightly before, and then I decided to double down on that and go way, way before. So right now what we have for you is Tom's charts for Infinity Challenge. And let me tell you, this is not easy. There were 174 characters in this set. I have never worked so hard on charts for no good reason, but if ever there was an opportunity to take the moment to just see just how far this game has come, this will be the opportunity to take a look. So by all means, let's see where this game was 15 short years ago. First of all, team abilities. Remember when there were team abilities in the game? Oh, those were good times. Remember when there were 10 different team abilities in one set? This is the one tab that I'm actually reminiscent for, to be honestly. Like, I look at it and I'm very impressed because this is more team abilities than we normally see in a set now. All kinds of great stuff there with X-Men, combined with Avengers, Sinister Syndicate, Masters of Evil, Brotherhood of Mutants. They were introducing us to all these wonderful things, and they were very good about giving their little point generics always a nice team ability they could use, lots of easy sources of shield and Hydra. I have nothing to laugh at on this chart. I think this is a pretty cool chart. I would like to see a set like this come again.
Yeah, absolutely. X-Men.
Huge
Oh
set,
man,
though.
so many X-Men even back then.
Mm-hmm. Yep, those were good days.
Wow. So many characters in this set.
Look at
It's crazy.
Like 8 characters each with Shield and Hydra. Oh,
Yep.
8. Like I'm estimating because I'm looking at a bar graph here.
Yeah,
We got
totally.
Skrulls at almost as many.
22
with
X-Men.
Shield and Hydra.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Not too many wild cards, making that a rarity, as opposed to sometimes in these days when we get like a ton of wild cards and virtually nothing for them to wild card. This is the one thing that I felt like they were doing right, and it's been 15 years of slipping. I love team abilities personally, and you can see when we look through this chart a change in the design priorities of Heroclix, a pretty fundamental one, away from the idea that every character should be themselves a melange of different power opportunities, but rather every different character brought something to the table, and usually it was a thing that it brought to the table. The team abilities help to kind of level that out and make everybody work together, and everybody contribute mutually towards the success of the team. So, no jokes here. I think this would be cool to see again.
Yeah.
Less cool is the next chart. Okay, so last time we've seen a set where the vast majority of the characters were below 50 points. The largest single spike is at the 11 to 20 space. I kept the Modern Age up there for the purposes of comparison. So there's the current Modern Age curve in red, and there's the Infinity Challenge curve in blue. Virtually everything is below 90. Virtually everything is below 70. The big spikes are in the range of 11 to 50. This was a point in time where 2 boosters would almost never give you a 300-point team, particularly considering they were 4-figure boosters. This was a rough and weird time for point values, my friends. But again, this was a time when every piece did one thing. So when people say that the Uncanny X-Men set represents kind of a pushback to the old school fashion, yeah, but not all the way.
Yeah, it was like a minor nudge in the right direction back towards the era, but not all the way there.
No, this was a weird time.
The remastered reboot, Amber says.
Yep.
I love that jump at 11 to 20. I can't lie.
Yeah, it's incredible. It isn't like there were multiple starting lines in these days either, guys. There were seriously more than 30 figures in this set that cost between 11 and 20. They were all your generics, and usually they were coming with a very useful team ability. Just good luck getting them in a position to do it if you're limited in your actions.
Yeah. And, I mean, the other thing, too, is there was 3 copies of every character in every set. Because there would be a rookie, experience, and veteran, and in some cases 4 if you consider some of the uniques, because there was a rookie, experience, veteran, and unique of Wolverine, and same with Spider-Man in this era.
And sometimes the difference between a unique or a rookie and an experience might be 2 points and like 1 stat in one category.
Yep. Other times it would be like, why is this one only 10 points more but vastly better?
Yes. Yes, this balance was not the name of the game.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Next. Combat values. Oh boy. Remember when the attack values spanned between like 1 and 15?
Oh my god.
Defense values that had a span of...
You guys are opening my frickin' eyes here. This is
from
crazy.
10 to 20. The values are all over the place. But here, again, really the thing to take away here is how much of a change in the design focus we've seen from the beginning until now. The blue bars represent the first clicks, and the orange bars represent the full dial. And ever since I've been doing this for the last 3 or 4 sets, we find those two bars working more or less in parallel. Except that there's a bit of a favor towards slightly higher numbers on the first clicks. They've really leveled out values across the dials. That is not the case here. For the best example of that, look at the defenses. The vast majority of the time, you're starting with a respectable 15 or 16 defense. Averaging across the dial, you have pretty much equally sized spikes at 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. 16 is less common than 11. And while it is true that the clicks of life, we talk about the fact that they favor shorter dials these days, not as much so as you might think. You see that the big spikes around clicks of life, I think that our heads might be blocking off where they are there, Jason. So can you just give people what the actual numbers are on the bottom of the clicks of life bar?
So we got, from left to right, we got 3 clicks of life, 4 clicks of life, 5 clicks of life, 6 clicks of life, 7 clicks of life, 8 clicks of life, then 9, 10, and 11.
So you see that the average is basically around between 5 and 6, which is not dramatically different than it was for Uncanny X-Men, for example.
But what is the relation of that to the 11 to 20 point value?
Yeah, and that's just it. Because everything was tending so much on the cheaper, then the higher point characters do tend to have slightly longer dials. But the fact remains, it wasn't the age of like consistently 8, 9, 10 click long dials as we like to remember it. It was just a little bit, it was just the fact that they fell away so quickly. They felt like they were unbelievably deep, because when your stats were awful on click 3, it felt like an awfully long time before you hit click 7. The fact that the damages were largely sitting at around 1 and 2 also made those dials feel like they went on forever and ever and ever. But you see a general rebalancing. The average attack value, the most common attack value is 7, but the average is more around between 8 and 9, and the defense average is around 15 or 16. So the relationship is more or less the same as far as the averages are concerned. That was first click averages, I should say. Across the dial averages, they level out more at around 13 to 14 defense and around 7 or 8 attack. But again, we're looking at the same relationship. You need a 7 is as true now as it was then. It was just that 7 was, on average, making your 8 attack hit their 15 defense, not making your 11 attack hit their 18 defense. So notwithstanding the massive rebalancing of actual numbers, the relationships from attack to defense is more or less the same. What we've really seen that has changed is the damage values going way, way up. And even as the damage values come back down across the Civil War and Uncanny sets, they're still not anywhere near where they were, and we're still cutting through dials much quicker than we used to. But anyway, I just think it's amazing, the massive span of difference. I really should at some point overlay this chart against, for example, Uncanny X-Men, because the attack values in Uncanny X-Men generally go anywhere between like a 9 and an 11 as the vast, vast majority. Here, it was all over the place.
Also, I want to point out that almost 15% of sets, and this is where I say range is way down from what it used to be. Mm-hmm. But almost 15% of the set had 10 range. Range was just an arbitrary number then.
10 was as common as 8, which was more common than 6, and 4 only slightly edged it out because there were so many super low point characters with the 4.
That's right.
Well, there's also the fact that Wood, Perplex, and Prob were 10 until basically around when I started playing, which would probably blow Mike's mind.
Yes.
That blows my mind. Actually, I knew that, though. But
except, of course, for the fact that in this set, there was neither Perplex nor Prob.
The only thing that snuck through with the 10 range is,
there was
Yeah,
Outsiders.
Prob was there.
Yeah.
Perplex was not.
Yeah, the Outsiders did sneak through the range reduction, you're right.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, this is where we were.
This is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
This is insane. It's just like, how did you play this game?
Remember all those times we say
do you even Heroclix?
Bro.
Back when Energy Shield used to mean something.
Yes, and speaking of powers meaning something, boy oh boy did powers mean something back in these days.
Holy crap. Wow. What the fuck is that?
Language.
75% of
The
the
language
clicks.
thing is off, Jay.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
over
kids
now.
don't watch
Yeah,
this
that's
show. It's the other good shows.
Yeah, fuck it.
75% of the clicks of life on movement had no power. 75%. It's like 10% now. It is.
I do want this one next to the Uncanny X-Men one, just for, like, I'm blinded by the gray here.
Running shot, between running shot and charge, because this was before hypersonic speed. So nowadays, virtually half the set starts out with move and attack. Even more than that if you include sidestep. Back in these days,
Well, it's reversed. It's at least reversed, right?
Yeah.
It's that percentage that we're seeing at the top is the none.
Yeah.
In the new sets. Well, it's even less than that, really.
It is, especially on movement. The movement has changed more than any other slot. From the perspective that these days, you rarely see an empty click on movement. When we do these charts, we see the movement slots on their starting click. Virtually everybody has a movement power, and even over the course of the dial, the none represents a small sliver at best. In these days, movement were very rare powers. And again, this speaks to the fact that pieces were not designed to work to work in multiple different ways, to be able to do tactic A, B, or C. You brought a figure because it had a power. In a lot of cases, there were exceptions, but the exceptions were few and far between. The most popular pieces powers as far as actual on dial abilities were stealth, leap, climb, and mind control. I can't get over the fact that 4% of the clicks of life in Infinity Challenge had move and attack.
One thing also worth mentioning, as far as the design of the game, the design intent of the game, the original rule set had, if you moved, you were allowed to make an action. Or sorry, if you were carried, you were allowed to make an action.
Yeah, carry. There was action after carry.
Yes. So I think that makes a factor in them saying, well, we don't need to put running shot or charge on everybody. Just all they have to do is have a flyer carry somebody. So include a flyer in your team. That should be standard, right?
Yep.
So it's just one of the things I'm thinking of is what they would be considering for design.
Even Firelord didn't start off with a movement power. Now that I'm looking him up.
What'd you say?
Even Firelord didn't start off with a movement power.
No, he was all the rookie Firelord Swarm was all about carrying him out and then
carry him with Wasp.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
Yeah. And then heal him with shield medics because after taking 2 or 3 clicks of damage, he had a 12 defense, which made him easy to heal. That's another thing about those late dial defenses that were really low. If you would look at a character and in the old days, and you'd rely on support and look at a late dial and go, his defense stays too high. He's hard to heal.
I forgot to actually mention on the last slide that it's probably worth noting that the attack values, even though the majority of them leveled out at around 7, you had starting attack values at 13, 14. They basically couldn't miss. Against the type of defense values people had in their first click, you couldn't miss if you wanted to. Thanos at one point got a 15 attack value. Now, it wasn't his starting attack, but the fact remains he had 15 attack to deal 3 damage.
You know what I just noticed that makes these charts particularly appropriate?
Yeah.
Infinity Challenge was the previous time we got Boomerang, and nothing in between.
Wow.
Very true.
Boomerang has come a long way, but he has fewer targets now.
My favorite observation, this set had Quicksilver, but this set had no hypersonic.
Yep, you had to give him Flurry to represent how fast he was.
Good old
All right.
Jay Garrick starting it all off, starting the madness.
Next, we go into the attack powers, and here we are with more empty clicks. It's actually amazing there are more attack powers than movement powers in this set, because again, I feel the need to point out that nowadays, movement practically always has color, and attack, there's a fair number of empty clicks on attack even now. Incapacitate was the most popular attack power, remember those days. Super Strength, very rare. Pulse Wave, exceedingly rare, but there was bits and pieces of Blades and Energy Explosion. TK was extremely useful, but extremely rare. And other than that, not a lot to say. Again, mostly empty clicks, and the ones that did have something, that was the reason you brought that character to the game. Incapacitate was great back in the day. Nightmare. I love Nightmare.
Yeah. And Energy Explosion was a weird power back then because when you used Energy Explosion, your damage became 1, and then you dealt 1 splash everybody adjacent to there. But then if you had multi-target and you targeted 3 guys next to each other, the splash math became disgusting.
And amazing.
I started playing the game in Guardians, and they changed the rules for Energy Explosion like a year and a half later.
Yeah.
I did not understand how that power worked, even once it retired.
There's a space in there where it stopped working like it used to work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Energy Explosion, they really mucked with that one before they completely changed around the concept with it. And obviously, I think these days they've nailed it. It works incredibly well.
Yeah.
Well, except for when it makes older pieces ridiculously overpowered, like the 55-point Blue Beetle.
Fair enough. Or like Boomerang. Didn't the original Boomerang have Energy Explosion, or was
Yeah,
it?
Energy Explosion
Yeah.
had like three lightning bolts, I think, too.
Yeah, Boomerang. Relevant again. Remember Puppet Master? Good attack values.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
All right.
I would love if they just did one, like, scenario night of just back to certain Infinity Challenge rules. It would just, if it was modern pieces, it would just be madness.
Especially on the maps now. Like, try if you played Infinity Challenge maps and you all had to argue about whether that car was blocking or hindering.
No,
Yeah.
the truck isn't
'cause they
elevated. You have to fly up. Otherwise, you can't move up it. There's no ladder.
Oh god, the old maps. Defense powers. Mostly nothing. In an age, this is obviously a very range-heavy age, and so the preponderance of energy shield deflection makes sense. You'll notice a surprising lack of combat reflexes, but that's of course because it hadn't been created yet.
Yep.
Otherwise, damage reduction. Also, there was no impervious. There obviously was no invincible. So the only thing you could count on was invulnerability and toughness, and those represented a mere 25% of the entire set. So 75% of the set, if it took the hit, was taking the full damage, which is why those 1s and 2 damages weren't nearly as bad as they seem at first glance to more contemporary players. Because really, the 1 or 2 damage was probably going to stick on the vast majority of pieces. It also meant that characters that did have a long run of invulnerability could be a real pain in the neck. That Hulk, I loved that Hulk, all the Hulks from Infinity Challenge, and particularly the experienced and veteran Hulk, with lots and lots of invulnerability and just ever ramping up values. The only guy to hit a 5 damage in the set, and 2 different versions of him did it. Along with lots of 12 attacks on those as well, so that you were definitely going to hit. That Hulk was a real beast. Otherwise, though, not much going on here, guys.
No, not at all.
When was Impervious introduced? When were the gold powers introduced?
Impervious, the gold
first
powers
DC?
introduced, it was Hyper Time.
Hyper Time, yeah.
First one with any gold powers. It was the first one for DC, but at the same time, DC had none of the gray powers.
Yeah.
Really
That's weird, eh?
Because
Yeah,
there was no
that's weird.
crossover until clobbering time for Marvel, when Marvel started to see the gold powers show up. It was a weird world we lived in.
That helped a
You guys,
lot.
poor kids. Looks a little simpler though.
It was very simple.
Yeah.
Painfully so.
I'm trying to
And
think.
Go
I
ahead.
don't think any of these defense powers have changed in the 15 years of the game.
Yeah, that's true, actually, isn't it? I mean, maybe subtly. I think they've cleaned up some wording on barrier or whatever when it goes, or at least rulings on it. But
They gave barrier a minimum range a little while ago.
yeah,
That's about it.
yeah.
Oh yeah, purple powers weren't here either.
No, yeah, totally. There was no willpower.
Yeah.
No willpower whatsoever. Also, no power cosmic team ability. So absolutely everyone had to take the pushing damage.
Yep.
There's some strange whipping happening in the background.
And it's not me this time, I promise, guys.
Okay. Damage powers. Well, here we have yet again mostly nothing. I mean, it boggles my mind how many empty clicks of life there were. Doing the stats for this was the most tedious experience of my recent life, and I have no idea why I decided to volunteer myself when nobody asked me to do it. Because mostly it was typing the word none into my spreadsheets over and over again so that when I did the pivot tables later, they would all show up with none. Because that's what they all had. Very, very, very little enhancement and in a world before Empower and before Perplex, your stats were mostly what you had. That's why Range Combat Expert is so important. And you can see that the Range Combat Expert pies were roughly the same size as the ESD pies. So you had a little bit of help to your damage and a little bit of help to your defenses, hopefully to try to protect against it. But make no mistake, this was a range. Range was king at this time, especially with the no action after carry not being implemented yet. Not much outwit. Not much.
So much range as well. Like the 10 range got the stats you were showing before. It's crazy. Oh wow.
And Battle Fury when it was awful. But the one thing, of course, is that Battle Fury, in a time when the no action after carry hadn't been introduced yet, Battle Fury was a little bit more relevant as far as stopping that particular tactic.
Yep. Well, because you had teams, half your team was flyers, the other half of your team was carried by those flyers. And if your character had Battle Fury, it's like, I need TK to move you. I'm not even going to bother.
Nope. And outwit may seem rare, but everybody owned a Black Panther, and that Black Panther saw no lack of play.
27 points with stealth, the Avengers team ability, and outwit.
Crazy.
That was it.
Still pretty. Honestly, still pretty good. That's basically what Jewel does now.
Yeah, basically. And one thing also worth noting is, at the time, Range Combat Expert didn't allow you to bump your attack. You were only allowed damage with it.
That's true, yeah,
Really?
That's worth remembering. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, this is the time when it was...
13 change, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, for most of its lifespan, that was the way it worked. And the same with Close Combat Expert when they introduced it. It used to be exclusively good for damage.
You and that was plus 2 damage to ranged or close. Cool.
And that was what made that rookie Fire Lord so dominant.
Yep.
I feel like that's more support than we get now, though.
Yeah. And rightly so.
Is that really a printed power? I can only think of, like, one in World's Finest. I can't think of any top dial in X-Men.
Nope.
Well, because the X-Men team ability is probably the reason for that being a thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
That and, the old design philosophy was, if you didn't bring a healer, you're going to die.
Yeah, absolutely.
You tried to bring, like, back then, the team building was, you tried to get as many powers on your team as you could. If you couldn't get as many powers on your team, you made sure the powers that you had were super strong, and that you were able to keep these guys alive. And of course, you would rely on go for the taxi was a legitimate strategy to try to save your life. It's
the game was different when Vulture was a legitimately used piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
there was no
was
movement
soaring.
penalty on carrying. That was another thing.
Sorry, what was that?
There was no movement. There was no movement penalty on carrying. A flyer could carry another flyer still.
Yep. You could soar. Oh God, I hate soaring.
Was that a thing that? Oh, I guess it was.
Soaring.
I don't even know how that worked. I've seen the flight bases before many times, and there's a little ticky thing you move up and you move down, but
it generally didn't work unless you had a because it required one of your movements to tick up to soaring, and then you're basically on elevated that half the range to you and made you untouchable except that somebody would leap and climb and
what?
It was weird.
It was weird and
trying to make it a more complex game, but just in a not working way.
But that was the only complexity.
Yeah, exactly. The intention was I think in the right place, frankly. The idea of representing a flying character being able to be flying above the battlefield as opposed to only ever flying to land. There was no levitate sort of effect, or rather, that was how they represented a levitate sort of effect that these days is simply absent from the game. So their heart was in the right place, but the soaring rules kind of were terrible, and they could end games. If your opponent didn't have the ability to get to your soaring characters, so they blissfully tried a few times to make it right, and then they made it go away. But it was a different. I guess the all I really wanted to do when I put these charts together, other than have a laugh at how much of things have changed, is reflect a little bit on how much the priorities of game design have shifted from when this game was created through to now, because We always talk about the fact that we'd like to see a new rule book, and they come out with new versions of rules all the time. They obviously revamped the size rules recently, and several things changed fairly substantially. The last time that they did a major redo to the pack, they reinvented a lot of powers, and we've talked about the fact that with the dials that we've been seeing in Uncanny X-Men and Civil War and presumably going forward, we're seeing a rebalancing of the meta, a change in the design philosophy. And that is not a new thing. This game's dial design philosophy has been consistently morphing and shifting for so long that when you look back at the way it once was, it looks completely unfamiliar. And it looks like a game that does not at all resemble the game that we play now and the game that we love now. And I guess if I had a thesis to it, it would only be that as things change moving forward, the game has been a lot of fun for a lot of people for an awfully long time. And I have every confidence that it can continue to be fun. If we can learn to adapt to the way the game is going to change before us, then we shouldn't be afraid to see things shift. Ultimately, stagnation can only damage the game's long-term viability. And I think that Heroclix has come an unbelievably long way in the last 15 years. There's no reason to believe it won't go another long way in the next few. So let's be excited for it.
Absolutely.
Words of wisdom from Tom.
Aw.
I feel like this is my biggest grandpa moment of the game, because I look back, this is 15 years of growth the game has come from that, and like I look at that.
A very unfamiliar game, man.
I almost want to teach new players that game so that they appreciate this game.
Yeah.
It might be a good way to teach them how to play HeroClix anyway, because it's simpler. It's a lot simpler.
Absolutely. Because one of the big things like I'm looking at is that game was such a simple game, and then we get into this game and people are overwhelmed by it. I mean, teach them that, and what's more is you get a chance to appreciate where this game has gone in 15 years. I've heard of people who are like turn to their kids and say you got to play on the NES before you can even touch that Xbox. Might work for HeroClix. Who knows?
Yeah.
So.
Well, it also I've noticed that when older players come back, their minds are blown. Like how I played against somebody who was playing a stealth character, and they were like, "Wait, so that doesn't automatically mean my movement isn't half remainder?" I was like, "No." Yeah. So.
Yeah, it takes some getting used to, and obviously, people who have good associations with the game as it once was, it can be quite a shock. I mean, we are so comfortable with the game in its current form, and we've learned to enjoy it so much that it's easy to sort of arrogantly believe that everything is an improvement. And I would argue that the game has improved, but it certainly can be a culture shock to those who have sort of strong, positive emotional memories locked up in the way things once were.
I wonder if we're going to do this all the way up to icons, and then people start to realize why things needed to change the way they did after that.
Yeah, no kidding. Sometimes you have to see it played out to realize just what a mess it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think after icons and the nerf to hypersonic was the beginning of a big realization. It's things where things needed to change. All right. So continue, and Tom has presented us with this excellent week of weird content to kind of just blow through. It's really cool, really fun to do. And I think I can safely introduce the next topic. And Tom wants to know what our favorite bad piece is, and that is the piece that is definitely not highly competitive, but we love it and build with it all the time anyway. And I am going to volunteer myself first on this one, which is awkward because usually I let you guys do it while I'm still deciding.
No, I'm still deciding too. It's hard to narrow it down.
Which is good because mine is pretty simple, and apparently after every time I screen share, I have an internet problem. So give me a quick second. I'll be right back.
And then we waited for Jason.
It was the time when we waited.
I'm going to have to address this issue soon. All right. Words aren't going to do it justice.
Oh, God.
Oh, I hate you.
Oh, so bad. Why do you waste your prime slot? Oh. That's a big
You didn't say
mistake.
like bad. It's just not competitive. It's not necessarily the same thing.
Well, in this case, it sure is.
Sure.
Okay, Jason,
Yeah,
tell us.
I almost put this on my other badness segment thing, but I didn't want to insult you. But then you brought it up anyway, so we get to insult you all over again.
Now, the reason I have been playing with this character in off games here and there as frequently as I have been is because I am a big fan of Force Blast. And he is traded with it, and therefore is capable of using it. Now, he also is very capable of getting the lead attack with an 11 attack, 4 damage, and a 6 movement charge, basically, which you can follow up the next turn with a well-placed Pulse Wave, which can knock everybody in with it within its range away. It's okay. I'm not going to disagree that it's not a great character.
No, it's not even a passable character. It might be the worst prime.
I have still frequently used this character and not been disappointed by him. Especially when you get to look at your opponent and say, "Oh, did you say energy explosion? I'm sorry." Should have just stuck with the Psychic Blast.
Has that ever actually come up?
It has come up on 1 or 2 occasions on the 4 that I've played with this character.
That's certainly worth holding on to.
Yeah. I mean, all things considered, and let's not forget, he does have some staying power with his late dial steel energy that does come with hypersonic, and a hypersonic that also has prob and late dial regen in the worst case scenarios. Now, granted, some of my regen rolls have been pretty good with him, but he has died in 50% of the games that I have played with him, and those regen rolls were not fantastic when I made them. So, and yes, I do keep playing with him. I don't care if he takes up the prime slot. I generally wasn't using that prime slot in the first place when I do use him.
Well, neither of those keywords generally have a prime outside of one of the various Supermans, so it's just a matter of which flavor of him you want.
Yeah.
So.
And I do frequently choose the shifting focus Superman over the 100-point prime for a lot of reasons. Flexibility and dial length goes a long way too.
Yes.
I love that 100-point Superman.
He's good, but for 10 points less, I get more. In my opinion. All right. Who wants to go next?
Nope.
Everybody
Jay.
all at once. All right. Well, Jay, you run
I'm still trying to find one because I don't play with a lot.
I don't want to go
crappy
last
stuff
because
on a
I
regular
like mine. You guys can struggle. Come on, find a crappy piece.
basis. All right, fine. I'll do
I
it.
led the way this time, guys. I didn't pass the buck, and you
All
guys.
right.
Do you have one yet? Or I can
Oh,
go.
Mike's got it.
Come on.
Are you kidding?
Get it together.
Wait, that's not your actual choice, is it?
Yeah, it is. He's good, but he's not. Again, I've played with him a lot. I was just trying to think of what I play with a lot. He's not competitive. He's not bad. He's just not competitive.
He's won limited rocks though.
He's
Yeah, I don't know.
the dial doesn't look amazing.
This is the best I can do, man.
You've seen his point value.
It's the best I can do, man.
That's all right. That's all right. Well, why would you? Why
Okay,
would you
listen.
argue that it's not?
You guys go ahead and share your crap, and I'll look for something else and regale you with my not crappy crap. How about that crap?
How about you make the argument for your Freddie Freeman? Why don't you?
I've tried him so many times on so many different teams, and he doesn't function in the way that I really want him to function. And that is that I want him to go in and be able to take some damage and then do that crazy pulse wave. And a lot of the time, what happens because his defense value isn't tremendous. It's not bad. He gets blasted past it. They just eat him alive. He just gets annihilated. And
It's a big target on his head.
Yeah, very
that's sorry.
It's a huge target on his head, accentuated by a lightning bolt.
Freaking target!
Yeah.
It's actually a lightning bolt coming out of
That's
his
what I
head.
just said.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said it because I said it too. I like him a lot. I think he's really, really good, and I've played with him a fair amount. In fact, I made a team for somebody who played in provincials here. It was Fawcett City. It was Freddie Freeman and Mary Marvel and a round table with a bunch of cards, and it was fun. And he had a great time because he's just coming back. This is one of our locals, Devin. He's just coming back or just coming into the tournament scene for the very, very first time. But he used to play when he was younger, so he used to play that the old version of Heroclix that you were just talking about and showing in those charts. But he's being introduced to the modern age, and he's actually pretty damn good. He's just having to learn these new things. So I wanted to make him a team that was fairly simple and straightforward, but still sort of competitive, but not too over the top contingent meta. And so rather than give him my 10-second turn double Loki team, I gave him this, and he did well. He went 2-1 in Swiss. That was great. But overall, I really like this guy, but he's just not quite there.
Yeah.
He doesn't quite operate in the way that I want him to, and I love the amount of keywords on him. He's so flexible, so easy to use in so many different things. I mean, Mystical alone is incredible. Yeah, that's how I feel about that. But anyway, I'll look for another crappier version of another crappier character.
I think you nailed it with Freddie Freeman for one big reason. It was he was on a ticking clock when he came in, because I ran him in that rock, and for a while I was trying to make him work. I was desperately trying to make Freddie Freeman work, and I couldn't get anything out of him.
He looks like he has what it takes. He just looks like it right away, right?
Yep. And I mean, there's a good portion of it where it's like, well, for some reason I just couldn't seem to hit, couldn't make it stick. Doing 7 damage, I guess, wasn't going to be enough in this case. And then, as the meta moved, there was things like Nick Fury showed up, and I mean, even his high movement was just not going to get away from that fact that he's not going to be able to use powers that he wants to use. So he had his time it was a very short amount of time, and I do think he still has his place in the limited format. But outside of limited, I will agree that Freddie Freeman is definitely not there.
Yeah, it's just not quite what you want.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to describe. I love him though. I've played with him a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Outsiders is a spectacular keyword now, just given more recent entries like Faust and the Element Man. So
Element Man's incredible.
I can see that working.
Yeah, it is. Element Man is amazing.
I would only argue differently if they would have given him that Outsiders keyword with the team ability.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
Only.
Yeah.
If only.
Then he would be unbelievable.
All right, Jay, what do you think? What do you say?
I can go next if Jay wants to go last.
Oh, okay, we'll let Jay go last.
Well, I legitimately like my piece. You guys are like...
Why'd you put it on this?
No.
We know your piece, and we watch you play with him constantly.
I love Superman Red. And
when I talk about playing with my clown, I'm talking about something entirely different. Just so you know.
Way to give it away, even though it's literally my HC Realms profile picture now.
That's awesome.
You just gave it away. Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay.
It is... Wait, what?
It's back to you, Jay.
It is the summer of smiles, and smiles are what this guy provides.
I love how he's showing all of our faces before he comes.
And we're smiling. Here it is.
It's hard to see, but there he is.
Show the clown.
It is the clown. And there's his dial.
There he
is.
A piece that can go on any team you ever build is just demands to be played on every team that can be built.
Yes.
His only problem is his defense number in some areas. And I think if you build with him right, you can very easily remedy that. He actually has some really spectacular values and just power combinations, and just does really good things on a lot of his clicks. He's just... in addition to being a wild card to help contribute or benefit from any given team that you're playing, he just really demands to be played. Like, let's say on a Sinister Syndicate team, you have a Venom with an 18 defend, and then all of them can share their attack values. The only problem with his dial is that he either has bad attack or bad defense. So once you fix that, it just looks like a really appealing dial. And I've actually committed to playing him in every non-hyper-competitive build tournament this summer, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're all pretty
Although it led
used
to
to him by
me
now.
not being able to go to a meta tournament more recently that Mike decided to run, because it had a mechanic where you would potentially switch your team with your opponents. I felt it wouldn't be fair to give my opponents a suboptimal team, but otherwise, it's been fun times.
I got to beat my own team. That was great. during that tournament. I actually beat my own team with Mike's team, Mike White's team. That's great.
I almost want to give away Tom's with this one by saying
Oh.
I think Obnoxio suffers from the same problems that the Beyonder does. Where there's so much inconsistency in that dial that it's like I want this great dial to be great and this multitude of powers to be amazing, but something's going on here that's just keeping it from being great. And Beyonders are like maybe a step better, and he's more flexible in the points you can spend on him, but I just want to put Beyonder up here, Beyonder here and Obnoxio here.
Yeah.
But Obnoxio was so cheap, and you can get an 11-4 with him for 78 points, or
You can.
Look at what he has. He's so cheap, and even when and if your opponent is like that scared of him that he kills him, okay, I have a whole other team. Whereas Beyonder is a team in and of themselves. So I like them both.
I mean, I like Beyonder a lot. He's actually not mine because I'm not ashamed at all, and I don't think he's bad. I just think
Should be.
You have to build, properly. Obnoxio is good, but in a way, he almost feels even more unpredictable and unreliable. At least with Beyonder, you get to choose a power every turn that another character can use, so you can sort of normalize what he does to fit the situation. With Obnoxio, whatever happens, happens.
If you're landing on one of the 15 defense super senses clicks, you're not going to have a good time. That is true.
But, at the same time, it's like, hey, here's a click with a high attack. Well, it is a click with 16 or 15 or 14 defense.
It is, and it's significant, as you point out, that he can put him on literally any team. Like that is pretty amazing in and of itself.
And also being a wild card, so just depending on what you got, it can just be that he can be that much better.
He provides a lot to the team, both with being a wild card and that so many of his clicks have support-based powers. Again, you can't predict what you're going to get, but you're probably going to get something. And if you get to know his dial well and you can sort of creatively push, then you gain a measure of control.
He has been a harder dial for me to memorize. That is just how random he actually is. But like I looked at Bizarro, and he actually does have a dial pattern. It just requires memorizing. But this guy is basically completely random.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of just actually memorizing every click, there's no pattern to go on.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
But like I said, I'm not trying to play him competitively. He is for funsies.
Spoiler
Is the fun.
there. If you have Rainbow Raider and you're up against Bizarro, choose red. Watch your opponent weep.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so I'll go. I will do mine. And admittedly, this is not a bad piece as such, but this was a piece that I thought I could do good things with. And then they made a rules change that really hurt it. And then they introduced a character that basically made it unplayable. And of course, his name is the Hulk, because he's my favorite character. And it's Hulk the End at 150 points. This character was so much better before giants could get shot over any piece of terrain between them and your opponent. And before there was a Nick Fury who could just choose to turn off that last power, that he had some pretty cool abilities. Because this is the one who has a stop click at the end, and he has the Titan tokens. Whenever he deals damage to an opposing character, he gets a Titan token. And instead, when he's on his last click, when you would deal him damage, instead remove a Titan token. So if you can rack up some Titan tokens, then this guy can just keep going and going and going. There are a few problems with that. Number one, he's going to get shot before he gets across the field, because even as a giant with charge, his swing is still only 6, and now you will shoot him over a building, and that 17 invincible will not stand. His 10 attack makes it hard to get the attacks that hit. He can't pick up Titan tokens when he's on his last click, meaning that he's got to heal off of it in order to get the tokens. But that will in turn make him a little bit weaker, and he will just get knocked back onto it. And if you've healed him off of it and you don't have any tokens left, then he'll just go straight to the KO bin. For 150 points, I want this guy to be great. I love the Hulk, and I like this version of the Hulk, but his keywords are a little bit lackluster. The fact that I can't stress enough that you can't pick up Titan tokens when you're on the last click. He can only use regeneration when he has no action tokens on the last click, so it's hard to rely on healing. So if you get there without any tokens, you're just one shot away from dying. If you get there and you regenerate and you can't then turn around and make another attack, then you will just get knocked right past that click. It still stops even when you don't have tokens. It just, again, it makes you vulnerable. He's too hard to heal. He's too hard to make work. I want to love him. I now only play him at 325 points in massive point games. But at 150 points, this Hulk is very pretty. He's cool. He's a chase Hulk, and he's one of my favorite storyline versions of the Hulk. But he ain't good.
Yeah.
I never really thought he was great at 150 before that particular rules change, really.
He wasn't great. It was just a little bit.
He
It was really.
Why
Nick
is there,
Fury
like,
is the one I hate so much about him.
why
Really,
is
you
there
just
so
hate
much
Nick
leap
Fury.
on that dial? Like, at full points, at 325 or 300, there's a total of 3 clicks of leap there.
Mhm.
For no reason,
Yes.
basically.
I hate to be that guy, but Tom rendered it unplayable when he went and took his Hulks on his shelf, threw them off the shelf, all in response to this guy.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
That's not the only reason he's unplayable to Tom.
That is the only playable Hulk that ever has been. But yeah, that's mine. Not much more to be said, but I wish he was better, but he isn't. You go on with your life.
All right.
That Hulk, I just love how there's basically no point to ever save the 25 points there outside of if you're
No.
playing a 300-point game.
That's
Like,
ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, you hit the 13, like, it's way too good to just save 25 points on. If you're playing that high point of game, put the full investment into him.
All
Invest in your Hulk.
Indeed.
All right. This
Next
next
up.
one's fun. It started as a top X, but I don't think we have the time for everybody to do the top number of whatever.
No.
But all of us are going to share. Now, something with regards to this. And the idea is Heroclix, it represents superheroes fighting. Now, we've seen live-action
guess.
movies of superheroes fighting now, so we have a visual representation. We have some realism, as it were, about the whole medium. So, now that we've seen it in action, read years and years of comic books, what rules and mechanics take you out of that? Kind of break the uncanny valley, as it were, of this game. Now, it's not the actual uncanny valley. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
using terminology, but the idea is we're representing superheroes fighting, and what makes you go, hold on a second, right? And I have a big one, and this is a huge one, and it's bothered me since the onset.
Is it a big one, though?
It's huge. Actually, it's kind of light. And part of it has to do mostly with the way HeroClix as a game or WizKids as a game or a game maker has represented light objects. Why are they hindering terrain? Ultralight current. Why is a gumball machine, a tire, a sewer cover, what else have we had for light objects? A rock? No,
But it was a really big rock.
It was a big rock.
but like a tire. Look, I'm 250 pounds and 6 feet tall. I cannot hide behind a tire on any of the cars that are out in the parking lot outside of my building right now.
Well, that's because you don't have stealth.
I don't get plus one. I am not harder to hit behind one of those. I am still the big mammoth behind
I don't know
the
about
tire.
you, but when this 250-pound man stands on top of a newspaper, I fucking disappear.
Or, yeah, the newspaper machine. It's like,
Yeah.
when has anybody successfully hidden around one of those? Stealthily, nonetheless. And especially at the size of Batman. Because Batman, let's be honest, he's a tough guy. He's got to weigh
6'4".
at least 200 pounds of solid brick muscle if he's not at least 6 feet tall. Plus, he's got the big black cape. I don't care how stealthy you are, Batman. There's a newspaper machine there. I can see you.
He's supposed to be like 6'5", 6'4". Like, he's supposed to
6'2",
be
I
taller
think.
than
6'1" or
Superman.
6'2".
He's huge. You know, so how, like, so,
He's,
yeah.
he's Solid Snake. He can hide behind anything.
I think my favorite hindering terrain for Batman that I've ever played is in the old airport map where the hindering was benches, so you would have Batman just like sneaking under the airport benches.
My favorite was the bucket of water. I just like to imagine him with 1 foot in a bucket of water saying, "You can't see me."
Wasn't the bucket of water hindering terrain?
It was water train.
It was water and it was a light object.
Yeah.
It was both.
Something like that.
I thought it was just water terrain. You must know.
I think it was a light object, but it only functioned as water terrain. It was more for the guys who can use stealth when they're in water or whatever.
Yeah. When not carried, a square containing this object is not considered hindering terrain. It is water terrain instead.
It's water terrain. That's what I mean. Is that I was using it as with one of those guys that treats water as stealth. I can't remember who. It was ages ago, but it was just funny to imagine somebody with their foot in a bucket of water treating it as a place to hide.
Anyway, so yeah. A part of this is the way they draw light objects. If they're going to be hindering, make it something I can almost get the park bench. I can almost get a number of things that are considered light objects. But like when you see the gumball machine and the tire, and I just go, no. And on the same note, a car is hindering.
Captain America's shield is hindering terrain.
Are you telling me I'm in the car? Because in my head, I'm on top of the car, right?
That's good. I like it.
Yeah, that's what takes me out of the game is light objects as hindering terrain. Heavy objects I'm starting to get because they're making them bigger and bigger. I can hide behind a wrecking ball. I mean, if I'm Miley Cyrus.
Yeah. That's how you came in.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Anyway, who wants next? Tom, you want in?
Sure. All right. My personal take me out of the game is everything about the carry rules. I understand that mechanically why carry works the way it does. Here's what I don't understand. Superman can lift a tank turret. Superman can lift Wonder Woman. If Superman attempts to put the tank turret into Wonder Woman's hand while he's flying, they both come flying out of the air. I don't get. You can't carry a character when they're carrying an object. Why? Why can't a flyer carry a flyer? Is it that they have too much pride? Are you telling me that the Falcon can pick up the Hulk and fly over there, but he can't pick up Thor because Thor's too proud to be carried? Is it because they're always considered to be flying? Because if so, that's what soaring was for. I just don't get it. I don't get the idea that if somebody's flying overhead, can they pick up the guy as they fly by? No, they cannot. If they start 2 squares away, can they pick them up then? Absolutely not. If they're flying by, can they put them down, then continue flying somewhere else and stop? No, they cannot do that thing. The only specific circumstance in which you can carry is if there happens to be someone standing right next to you who can't fly and thus is not proud and is not carrying anything else, then you can give them a ride and hop over there. How many people can Galactus carry? 15? 20? 27? 1. How many? And that's really only because of some rule adjustments. At one point, if he didn't fly, it was 0.
There was a long time where Galactus couldn't carry anybody.
Yeah, just everything about the flying rules is weird to me. No action after carry? All right, fine. So we represent that during the course of this turn, you were carrying guy from point A to point B. But how come TK's okay? It is one of these things where I feel like the mechanics of the game have put us into a certain place that creates game balance. I understand it mechanically, but thematically, I just don't get it. I want to carry that guy. That guy wants to be carried, but he's too proud, or he's got too much tire in his hand. That's all.
Back to the tire. You see what I'm talking about?
It all comes back. That's my thing. It's just the carry. Everything about the carry rules are just weird to me. They don't feel like a comic.
To a certain degree, I'm picturing like Vulture carrying Falcons. Like, get your wings out of my way! What's going on here?
Oh yeah, you can come up with that circumstance, but by the same token, I also can't imagine Vulture carrying Juggernaut at all.
Also true. Also true. How did Juggernaut not be able to be carried? Uncanny X-Men had a few oversights in that matter, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. We all have our pet peeves.
Didn't carry Juggernaut on several occasions for pure principle. I was like, no, I kind of want to win and sealed.
So, all right, who's next?
Well, I think as far as your subject goes, I think the worst thing is that I normally love using ultralight objects because it's, a surprise range, even for 1 damage is good, especially good if they have energy explosion. But you're telling me that Superman can't carry Ant-Man because he is holding a pen.
That's correct. That pen makes it impossible. He might stab Superman. Superman doesn't trust him. He won't let him carry.
Or the basketball.
You can't have anything on you that looks like anything remotely dangerous.
Look, when it comes to the basketball, I just want to say Hank Pym's like, nah, I got the rock. I got the rock. All right.
I just love the idea of, because The Rock recently made the pie object. I can just imagine Noxshow with all his tricks and goodie bags and his balloons and nonsense is able to be carried. But then once he picks up a pie, everybody is too scared to carry him because they're afraid he's going to pie them in the face.
Everybody suddenly gets trust issues with him on that one.
Did you notice that it's actually an ultra heavy, that pie? So you can't even carry it to begin with. It's got a purple ring around it.
Isn't that
Before
the
you
one
get
where
to
it's white though, but it has the...
it's a misprint, but yeah.
That's a big pie.
All right,
It's a giant piece of pie.
Jeremy?
No, I couldn't really think of anything. I was just like, I get why they've done everything, and I can kind of see from the anthropological point of view of the game why things have evolved in the way that they have to a certain degree. Some of it still surprises me, like what I saw in those charts earlier. But I kind of get why things are the way they are right now, just from purely purely game mechanics standpoint. And nothing's really going to take me out of the game, per se. And I understand your gripe, Tom. It's not thematic and it doesn't work. And yeah, I mean, the whole carry thing is kind of irritating. But there's nothing really, I mean, there's a couple powers I'd really like them to change into other powers, and I've talked about it many times before, and that's like leap climb. Because it's stupid. It's just dumb. Unless they bring back the whole leap climbing on top of actual blocking terrain, or making it at least somewhat. But yeah, I know that could be easily exploited. I get it. But making it at least somewhat unique.
Yeah.
I just don't get why it exists. Really, like it's filler. It's just nonsense bullshit.
It is weak sauce.
It is totally weak sauce. That sauce is not strong. We know we like strong sauce.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, you have to give me a little more time, really, to think about it. I've been thinking about it since the beginning of this episode, but it's not. There's nothing really that stands out to me as being so absurd that I would leave a game because of it, or if somebody exploited something that's currently active in the game, that I would ever get so pissed off that I'd be like, well, screw you, WizKids, and then wrote them a nasty letter. Oh, this is strongly worded.
No, it's more so just that we think it's silly.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, there's a lot of silly stuff. I mean, there
the
are still.
bubblegum machine was from Cosmic Justice. I've made it this far.
I loved Amber's shirt design for that contest, because it was like a little girl hiding behind a bubblegum machine. That was great. It was fantastic.
All right.
Yeah.
Jay, did you?
I had one, but I'm going to change it last minute. I was going to say no tiny equipment.
Right.
And no giant equipment because, of course I can't, because Parallax can't possess Hulk because he's just a couple inches too tall or too small. But,
silly, you're right.
oh my god, I just realized. So I'm looking through stuff, and I'm looking at the old Stiltman with Giant. But he is not a giant. He is a man who has a giant mech suit. He is normal sized. He is not actually a giant.
The new one
but because of his height relative to the ground. What?
Did Giant exist at that time yet?
Yeah.
Yes, the old Stiltman was a giant. So because he is in a mech suit that makes him slightly too tall, he is not able to be possessed or pick up an Hulkbuster object.
That's correct.
That is silly.
He has long legs.
It's pretty silly.
Parallax wants no piece of that.
Yeah. But I think on that train of
Parallax
thought,
hears
I think the more annoying thing that comes with this game tends to be when scale takes you out of the game. Let's screen share, because this is visual.
Like, I remember a lot of people were like, well, why is Scotty not a giant? And I was thinking to myself, like, in the comics, she's not that big.
Hey, don't copy me. Okay, this is Scotty. You can kind of get a feel for how big she is relative to how she's depicted relative to her base. And that's pretty much how this game is. This is Test 1. Look at the base.
He's normal. Yeah.
Neither of these characters is giant. The Quinjet is like... If you've seen the Quinjet, you know how big it is.
That's correct. The Quinjet is enormous.
Even when you actually know the game, and then you see these ridiculously sized proportioned pieces.
Yeah.
Sometimes you will
the Hulk
actually
can't fit in the Quinjet.
Yeah.
You just sometimes it's the way scale is with this game. Even if you actually know how big a character is, you might end up finding yourself making plans or strategic decisions based on these things. I was at World and I saw somebody think that the Quinjet was colossal and therefore able to be seen over by other characters, especially considering that it's hovering and whatnot. But it is not.
Would be
And
logical.
yeah. So when the scale of this game makes you make incorrect tactical decisions just because of how dumb it is, it gets really annoying. And it also takes away from when you see, even when you're playing with the piece, you're playing against the piece, you're like, oh, I can totally punch that dude. I have giant reach. Oh, I do not. I am just a gigantic, normal-sized person.
I agree
Or even
completely.
the most recent Ant-Man from the Civil War movie set. He's basically normal size, but has tiny. It's like, okay, you're maybe you're little person size, but you ain't no tiny.
Yep. I want to add two more since there are, we didn't get a full complement of things. Amber wanted to add on any character with hypersonic that gets stopped by a bush. And she's had years of gripes with this with Quicksilver. And Quicksilver has never ignored hindering for some reason, guys. And yet, if you look at the book, I have never once seen him run into the bush.
You didn't see that one where he tripped over a tire and had to stop?
Or was it the gumball
Quicksilver
machine?
just really hates Bush. Is that not possible?
Oh man. And there was one more in the midst of all of this, and it's all of a sudden gone. Nope, it's gone. I thought I had something really good, and it left my head. But yes, Amber's idea there on really quick characters that Bush. Ah!
By all means, for those of you watching at home, let us know what you think is ridiculous in the game of Heroclix.
Throw it in the comments below. We want to hear your opinions.
All right.
All right. So, if you're just tuning in,
And
I want to
finally.
warn you, do not use what you're about to hear, ever. Again, I stress, ever. Don't do it. Bad idea. But if you want to support us directly on Patreon, patreon.com/Heroclix. Next month, for those of you who are part of the Patreon program, this month rather, usually it would have been July 1st, but that was Canada Day. That's a holiday here. And then this coming Friday, me and Amber are getting our on-paper wedding. We're no longer going to be common law married. We're going to be proper married.
Legit married.
Moving in there, July 15th will be the patron hangout. And I've got to try to find a way to make that work because I just realized we might be making that road trip to Ottawa. So I'll make it work somehow, or I'm just going to play like this the whole day. So July 15th, patron hangout. For those of you who are patrons, if you want to join in on that, check us out at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. And you can support us directly if you don't want to go through our wonderful advertisers or sponsors in that matter. I just kind of wanted to extend the conversation to do not, under any circumstances, use what we're about to talk about. Tom put it upon us to build our worst modern age teams that we can come up with at 300 points modern. Now, there are stipulations. It is 300 points modern. It is Highlander. Highlander rules being there can be only one. If you've ever watched the original movies, that's the reference. If you ever hear somebody say the Highlander rule. So at least one character must be 100 plus points, and at least one character must be 70 plus points. And I don't have much to screen share because one of my figures hasn't been put on HC Realms yet. So I'll try to be very clear about this team. Now, my team is Marvel Knights themed.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't use the ATA. The ATA is worth more than my team is. I started with the Punisher van. When I saw this thing, I was like, oh, that looks so cool. Oh, look at the idea of dropping weapons. Oh, it comes with a Punisher. That's even more cool. Look at this resource style, which I instantly paid 10 points for. I went with a full dial Punisher van. The whole 125 points, add in 10 points, let's throw some weapons on there. The weapons don't matter. There's generally 7 that are pretty solid, 2 of which include the rocket launcher and the BFG. I'm including the Punisher that came in the same box as him as the pilot because I've looked through it and it makes absolutely no sense to use anybody but the Punisher with the dial unless you're strictly using it as a mobile vehicle to deliver something. Always use Punisher if you're using the resource dial. Next up, now it maintains its Marvel Knights theme as well because the Punisher has Marvel Knights, and the Punisher band doesn't matter because the Punisher is on the team. Next up is the Civil War Daredevil, which is actually Iron Fist in a Daredevil outfit. This character does a Daredevil a very big disservice. he's not the best Daredevil in the world. I would generally never use him for anything more than a call-in. And even then, maybe not. This would be just to get some lower points to call in Daredevil or lower points to call in an Iron Fist because his real name is Danny Rand. And then to wrap it all up, I had about 35 points left over. You know who has Marvel Knights keyword and I didn't know? Night Nurse.
Yep.
Oh, but she's good. She's really good.
Really good.
She's pretty neato, and she's probably the best thing on this team.
Yes.
Unless your opponent doesn't know how to say, I attack Punisher.
Yeah.
Wrap it all up. I added some ID cards to wrap up the last 15 points.
Yep.
And I made some terrible choices. I went with the Luke Cage ID using the Luke Cage from Civil War. Now, Luke Cage from Civil War has a cool trait where he can reduce penetrating damage. You know what he isn't immune from? Outwit. Which, in every case I've seen him on the table, made him go, well, sweet Christmas, I'm about to get shot in the face. Next up, I added on Machine Man. His ID power, his inspiration is cool. That character is a piece of crap.
Yeah, he's the worst.
He's really bad.
He's not terrible.
He's horrible.
He's bad.
And then I got a character next whose inspiration is way more useful than the character being called in.
Uh-huh.
And that is Jarvis.
Wow, yeah.
Under what circumstances do I ever go, you know what, I've got an ID card, I'm going to use Jarvis. Definitely Jarvis. So I'm pretty sure something gives energy shield. Oh, Captain America and
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern.
So there's my +2 at range. And they also added a different effect, and they bring in the option of 2 amazing characters who could be multitudes of awesome.
No, it's all about Jarvis.
Who's going to show up, probably not die, but maybe perplex at best.
Maybe.
Well, the fundamental problem there is that the only one in Modern is unique, and he is the ID card support piece.
Yeah.
So if you're playing him as intended, you literally cannot play his ID card. There's no reason to ever play.
So there's
A good choice for a worst ever.
You wanted the worst ever, you got it. Now, I do want to point out there is a question about this, and we're probably going to have to skip over the fan question about it. The Punisher van looks better on paper than it really is, because this is the only resource I have seen other than the round table that gets worse with use. And even the round table has an effect that makes it better with use at the same time. So the round table, you're using the ID cards, you get rid of the ID cards, you're losing some space. It's really not that great. But at the same time, eventually you do hit that click number 2 or that click number 3, and it's still adding some extra bump into what you've got. The Punisher van has a ticking time limit for that 10 points that you spend. And once you're out of it, that resource is done. You're not using any more of that resource. Because the way it works is you start at, like, if you paid the full 10, or you can pay another lower point value, and you start at
5.
Click 20, right? So you start at either click 20 or click 10, I believe it is.
Yes.
I mean, every time you use one of the weapons, you click away at the points that are there. So if you start at click 20 and you use, let's say, the rocket launcher or the BFG, the 2 most useful weapons ever made, and most amazing weapons ever made, you're now at click 13, which means you get 1 more use of those things. Though, if you do get a chance to do that, what have you done? And your opponent forgot to say, I attack Punisher again. Because it's just not a situation you can create very easily. And then, once you've gone through 2 turns of that, now you can't even use those 2 weapons we just discussed. And you got 6 clicks left, which is like 6 points of items to use. You really have to do a ton of effectiveness to make it work. And every time you use it, that Punisher is just out there waiting to be shot in the face. And it's kind of sad. And, I mean, I really wanted this thing to work. I really did. But in a world where the Quinjet exists, it's definitely not worth the resource dial.
It's very outclassed.
Specifically the resource dial. So don't use your resource, use a resource dial on this. Though as a vehicle, it's tough. And it's got RAM. So, but, yeah, using that as your resource dial just makes it look weak. All right. I'm done ranting about quite possibly one of my worst.
Right.
Tom.
All right. Well, here's what I did.
Wait 1 second. If you're just tuning in, do not use these builds. Go, Tom.
Yeah, do not.
All right, worst team ever, version 2. Let's see what we got here. So you should be seeing my HC Realms page. We're starting things off with my 125-point piece, and that's Max Mercury. Now, this is a fine piece of machinery. Max Mercury has an amazing 8-click dial with outstanding damage numbers that go as high as 2 and go down as low as 1. He is a hypersonic piece. He's a hypersonic piece that has the 10 attack and 2 damage with 11 movement. Also, of course, he doesn't ignore hindering, because why would he? And he runs through a lot of people. When he gets speed tokens, he can do a few cool things, but he's not going to get speed tokens because he's terrible. Also, his hypersonic is intermittent, and he combines nicely with another lousy hypersonic piece. His name is Whizzer. And his name is appropriate because he's a hypersonic piece that does 1 damage. Now, admittedly, he can use Close Combat Expert when he uses hypersonic speed, so that's something, but a lot of cases you're going to need that on your attack anyway, and even if you dumped it down all onto your damage, that's only 3 damage from a hypersonic piece that's attacking you with 10 movement. Really, really not good. Especially not good when Turtle's on your team.
Tom, you counted your own team on your...
That's sabotage. That doesn't count.
Totally does. It's the worst team ever. And then, so that's just a quick reminder that with Turtle on the team, if Max Mercury ever moves more than 5 squares, he pushes. What happens when Max Mercury pushes? He loses hypersonic.
An attack.
Correct. So you're going to have to get into close combat with all those attacks, ladies and gentlemen. Same with Whizzer, who thankfully manages to hold his hypersonic through the dial, but he's still abysmally bad. And of course, when you've got 50 points left and you're building a bad team, you're putting Signal Man on that team. Signal Man is one of the worst pieces of all time. I love this at the beginning of the game. Choose a combat symbol other than boot, fist, shield, and starburst. When an opposing character with the chosen symbol is targeted by mind control, modify that character's defense value by -1. Holy mackerel. So you're basically looking for a situational usage of a slight enhancement on the ability to use mind control, which he doesn't even start with. I hate Signal Man. I think he's just abysmal. You have to push him on to click number 2, and then he gets the best things he's ever going to get. And admittedly, yeah, he's 50 points for Outwit. He's 50 points for Outwit that at that point has a 16 defense with super senses and is 4 points of damage away from getting KO'd, or 2 points of damage away from being useless. So, it's a bad team. And yes, admittedly, I did sort of sabotage my own team in the making of it, but it is a worst team ever exercise. That's kind of the point. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, it's still kind of works. To me, there's a soft line about just how much sabotage you could do. If you underbuilt by 100 points, that's too much sabotage. Or if you chose only ID cards that no one could actually call in, that's a little bit too much sabotage as well.
Almost use Ares.
I don't think that's legal, though. I think you have to have the character, like, you have to have a possible character to at least put on the ID card, not necessarily call
not to call in, but yeah. But no, I don't consider him that an undue sabotage. But let me tell you, if we didn't want to do that, then I'll just find something else for 50 points. It's terrible. Let's face it, it's a bad team.
Yeah, you know what? You just reminded me, almost like to this exact moment. I forgot how bad the Flash Gravity feed was.
Yeah.
Just in general.
They were all bad.
I almost want to go back and try again and use the Jay Garrick from that.
I mean, well, admittedly, Ragdoll was good.
From the beginning, though.
Yeah, Ragdoll was good from that Fast Forces or
that's the best
Gravity Feed.
ragdoll, though.
So 1/10 of it.
Not
okay.
the best.
Well, and
Oh.
those police captain from that exact gravity feed.
Yeah, they're not all bad, but all the characters I want to play are bad. The Argus Researcher's okay, but he's pretty forgettable. I mean, really, 40 points for Outwit's not terrible. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The Central City Police Captain was pretty key to my police team.
Yeah.
Captain Boomerang is, I mean, yeah, it's overall not the best gravity feed, but I wouldn't say the worst. There is worse.
In the modern age, it's probably the worst.
Well, it's literally the only gravity feed in the modern age.
Well,
There
no,
we go.
Trinity War,
Good
but
lord.
Trinity War had the Green Arrow.
Huh? Oh, wait, Trinity War was the last. Oh, you're right.
And had the Green Arrow. So, but I mean, like, everything else was crap in it, but that Green Arrow is just like, that's 10% of awesome.
All right, Jay, what have you got for us?
I think I went a little differently than all of you, because I did a team with ridiculously overcosted characters, but, like, it wouldn't automatically lose, but it's still bad, but it's not, like, sabotage. So I guess I will have to screen share, because
There's no deliberate sabotage on your team?
I like
Way to
my
go, Tom. Way
I
to
like my
go.
deliberate sabotage. I win. Worst team.
You are a winner.
Oh, no. I just closed my son of a...
You close all your windows.
Now we're seeing ourselves. It's eerie.
Dude, put it to the right window first. God, what's wrong with you?
I accidentally closed it. One sec. Pressure. New window.
Carry the 4.
If you're just tuning in while Jay is getting set up, do not use the teams that we are talking about tonight, ever. And if
Here,
you
I'll do mine while he's doing
No, I
it.
got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Teams tonight.
I'm assuming I am sharing.
Oh man, this is a bad piece.
Yeah.
He's not worth it at all.
I like the dial. I just really hate the cost.
Yeah, I like the dial for 110 points, but not for 165.
Yeah, it's just they made him and they made the superior Spider-Man. They made characters above 150 that literally only have super senses defensively.
Yeah, but he could literally move 2 squares and attack, Jay.
He's so he's just so OP. He had to be nerfed. Yeah, just this piece of garbage.
Pretty
Let me get to
terrible.
the next ridiculously overcosted. This isn't the Chase 75-point Dontel. This is this
Nope.
piece of garbage.
when Jay had put his team in the show notes, and I was like, what's wrong with the Chase? Donatello's the only one that's appropriately costed. Where is?
I forgot. I
totally
forgot these guys were modern age legal. This is a great call.
I put
This
this
is
set
probably-
out of my brain that hard.
Yeah, just look at the rest of the dials from that. It's
Yeah,
just
that's a
atrocious.
good candidate for a worst team ever, and it's just those 4.
Yeah.
I should have done that, but I didn't. Yeah, I was trying to go for a theme. I was like, oh, this Spider-Man is stupid, and he's a scientist. Donnie's a scientist.
Good call, though. Donatello is really bad.
It's like, yes, you can carry him with Spider-Man that many squares, and then his outwit is like, okay, yeah, great team.
Oh God, I see where it's going too. This is good. You're
This
doing
beast
good
isn't
stuff here.
terrible necessarily, but just look at what he does for those points.
Nothing of value. You can't
Yeah.
prob control his terrible attack rolls.
Yeah, like he can move.
It's only opposing probability.
No, he's a tie down piece basically with the X-Men team ability.
Yeah, which technically Spider-Man can wild card, but just
Yes.
no.
Oddly enough, he's the same number of points as the Jean Grey with the free TK.
Yeah.
I
Gene
have-
with the good hair is just leagues and leagues and leagues above this trash.
I have to give you credit. I even though I still believe that my sabotage team is still worse. This is a pretty bad team.
I wanted a team that was technically functional, and I wanted the team to at least get map roll to have some sort of hopeful advantage in my favor, but I didn't want to make it
Hey.
complete actual garbage.
To be fair, my team is functional because Turtle slows everybody down, and my guys are all hypersonic speedsters, so they should be able to outpace my opponents. It's just at the expense of their own health.
And then I filled the team in with.
Plays in your own team.
I filled the team up with what I do. I did the 1-point Fantastic Four AT that like sometimes does defense, and this Spider-Man needs all the help he can get. I did the surfboard because that is funny.
Yep.
Especially because for some reason these are the only turtles that actually have dolphin. The turtles can't ignore the water train in their own sewer.
I'll bet that Godolphin symbol costs about 45 points based on the
Yeah,
quality of
just
their
like
gun.
if anybody hasn't seen this set, it's just a gold mine of god awful.
I can't believe that
Oh,
that
yeah,
was
starter
how
is
they
the
wanted.
worst.
I can't believe that's how they wanted to introduce people to Heroclix. Like we were
Yeah,
talking
like
about earlier
at
about
Worlds,
introducing people.
these were the figures they were using at the demo.
Oh no.
Oh,
They're great
just
at introducing
so good.
Heroclix, as long as they never look at anything else in Heroclix.
Yeah, no
Look at
kidding.
look. Oh man, this rap is so OP. Oh,
Like the only comment I can
They do
imagine
look
people
like old
having.
dials, though, don't they?
huh?
They do kind of look like old dials, though, don't they?
A little bit. I mean,
Triple
older
treated
though.
toughness.
No,
Yeah.
because all of these guys would be like 35 points in the old dials.
Yeah, they also wouldn't have this many powers, but they do look like what they honestly look like is extremely watered down contemporary dials because they've got about the right number of powers in the right slots. They're all moderate clicks long and
They're
with
so
modest values,
slow.
but they're so bad.
They're just honestly, I think the worst part about them is just the speed. It's just atrocious.
I think that the worst team ever might be none of our teams, but rather those
well,
four
you-
I
teams.
also
Wait,
didn't finish
mine.
yet because I didn't actually have anything finished because I had
No.
I put the surfboard like I was saying because that's hilarious and is just terrible, especially if you don't get map choice and it becomes literally useless. But then I was like, oh, I have 8 points left. I could do an ID card, or I could do the Cosmic Treadmill. I can put Beast on there, and he needs a 10.
Classy.
Yeah.
Classy move.
Yeah. Just too good. Had to nerf it. My team even more.
All right, Mike.
Well, hello, everybody. I have two teams. One of them breaks the rules, and one of them doesn't. Let me see here. I think that's the correct one. Let me see. Yes. Well, the captain of this team is the Condiment King, because we all love the Condiment King. And if you recall, Jason and I and Tom all had a big argument about how valid he is in in the sealed scenario for that set. Totally crappy characters here. I went with an Arkham Asylum theme. We've got Condiment King, the Joker's Daughter, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, the Mob, and two Mob ATAs that go on to Condiment King and the Joker's Daughter. So at least I have theme prop and theme for initiative purposes. Joker's Daughter, I've never been able to make really work well.
I think she's really good.
I pulled her in sealed, and she failed me horribly versus anything reasonably good. That may have been my own piloting of the character, but I don't think so. Moving on, I have the Fast Forces, Poison Ivy, just kind of mediocre.
On my team.
Bunch of colors, random kind of, doesn't work all that well together. Her mind control is I mean, the only decent thing on her is her trait with mind control. When she's adjacent to a friendly character with printed team symbol, modify her defense value by +1. Meh.
Or she's 25-point barrier, which is actually awesome.
Yeah, 25-point version is good. The 75-point version is not.
Correct.
Moving on, we've got Scarecrow here. I really wanted him to be awesome. I was very disappointed in how not awesome he was when I ended up playing with him. And yeah, overall, kind of a disappointing figure. Moving on, we've got two instances of the Mob here. The highest point, friendly character using this team ability can use Mastermind, but can only transfer damage to a friendly character using this team ability. So, Condiment King and Joker's Daughter have to stay hand in hand.
Aw.
Aww.
That's cute.
I do think the Joker's Daughter is a decent piece. Not competitive at all, but still decent.
Yeah, that's nice.
Nah.
Moving on, my other team is Marvel Knights as well. As soon as Jason said that he did Marvel Knights, I decided to change my team to the other one. No, but seriously here, we've got Ken from Street Fighter here. He's amazing. An awesome figure overall. That's 85 points, representing the Punisher van. They don't have him on HC Realms yet. This is the lower point with the resource style.
Right.
And then you've got a 45-point Punisher here to be able to facilitate at least the van's abilities for the most part. Along with this Luke Cage from Civil War, he's okay. He's nice little charge character with super strength. For 70 points, he's not horrible. But overall, I mean, it's not a tremendous team. And then we've got Age of Ultron, Iron Fist. I know Jason loves Iron Fist. He loves Iron Fist and Power Man. He's all about that stuff. But
this Iron Fist is terrible.
this Iron Fist is pretty god awful.
After I got Fear Itself, the Fear Itself common,
Yeah.
I got spoiled, and I have to deal with this Iron Fist now.
Yeah, and that Power Man actually pretty crappy overall.
Yeah.
Anyway, once again, theme team, pretty cool.
I like it.
Yeah. Well,
I want to point out, I think, Tom, you were the only one who didn't actually build a theme team.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thereby taking away one possible advantage that all of our teams we built with intact.
What
So
does that mean?
Tom countered his own build. Tom didn't build a theme, thereby giving him very little advantage. Did create a disadvantage for his team, but ultimately Tom didn't make the most functional team out of us. But Jay also had a starter turtle, so therefore...
The starter turtle is god awful.
Yeah.
I put them out of my mind. Like just how bad they
They're
are.
so
I bought
bad.
that starter and I handed it to somebody and said, "Here, this is how you learn this game." Because if you look at it, the materials in the actual box are really good if you take the turtles out and put the other turtles in from the gravity feed.
Well, I'll say this. If you think that using Turtle was too much of a sabotage of my team, then we can pretend that I've subbed in Imperial Hydra.
Cute.
Because on his own, he's
Doesn't
awful.
do anything.
Those turtles are so bad that one of our locals, who's like the most casual fun times person I know, even he can't stand them.
Yeah.
They're just probably some of the worst styles in Modern, not including. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing with them is that they're just obviously bad. Like, nobody who actually knows this game can pretend that they're any good. So at least they have that going for them. That nobody will actually play them.
No, I'm laughing at what Jason's doing at the stop.
Are you
I guess I'm still recovering from the weekend. Let's just
No
say.
kidding, man.
There
you
are
feeling
times. There
a
are
little
times that
strokey?
there are times I wish the group chat was visible to the whole internet.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Oh boy.
Okay,
It
Oh,
just-
Alright.
Jason.
I also want to mention that my bachelor party was this past weekend, and
that's fair.
boy, was it awesome!
Well, this has not been the Bizarro episode. Thank you all for your lack of indulgence.
Yeah.
DM hate all of you.
And as we get into the fan portion of the episode, now we're going to be starting into reality again. We will give the best advice that we can give in general. The teams that we just built, please don't use those ever. And if you do, be aware that we didn't build them with any good intentions in the first place.
They're
So
the bad.
they're pretty terrible bad. But without further ado, let's get into fan questions this week. If you do want to submit your own fan question, by all means, throw it in the comments below on YouTube. And by the time we get to those, we should get you before the show is over. As we start with Facebook, and those are the ones that get addressed first. Just kind of dilly-dallying as I'm actually pulling up the YouTube window with any possible questions. But without further ado, here we go with, boom, Matt Wallace. He says, "What's up, guys? So have you all had a chance to use the Turtle Van or the Punisher Van? If so, do you all think there's a competitive future with either one? Also, if you all were given a chance to create a map, what would you go for? Why would be the Sanctuary from Doctor Strange?" I think he means a Sanctum Sanctorum, I hope.
Yeah.
Hope all goes well with the wedding. Congrats to you two. Well, thank you very much on that one. I'm looking very forward to it on Friday. And on that note, Amber has decided to open hell in the kitchen. All right. So yeah, between the Turtle Van and the Punisher Van, I actually found a little bit more use out of the Turtle Van for a number of reasons. One, you're not kind of relying on the resource dial. You can still kind of throw a resource on your team if you happen to be going in that direction. As well, it can carry 4 passengers. That's big because there are 4 Ninja Turtles. And you can actually build a reasonable team with that within either the 60-point or the 100-point range. Now, I built in larger point games using the 100-point version. I've built in smaller games with the 60-point version. And a lot of the strategy did hedge on using the Chase Turtles and rolling that impervious. So take that into account when you hear me yammer on about it. The Punisher Van, on the other hand, I have used it twice, and though I was successful in staying alive with it, there's a lot of work to go in for not nearly enough payoff, because unless you're using the rocket launcher, there's not really a whole lot of oomph coming out of a lot of the weapons. The rocket launcher and the BFG are the ones that stand out. Rocket launcher because it's energy explosion that's better than energy explosion, because you just have to hit the first target. The adjacent targets all have to suffer the end result of being hit in the first one. So if there's a guy with low defense, aim for that guy with a rocket launcher. He takes 4. Everybody next to him takes 3. Rocket launcher's great. BFG.
You don't even have to hit them.
Yeah. BFG, single target penetrating damage, fantastic. But overall, after you've kind of gotten the use out of it, for one, once you've used a weapon, you bring out the Punisher. Punisher can free action pick up those things because all the weapons say Punisher can use a free action to equip this weapon. Then you used a weapon, and most of them are single use, so he now throws it out. And now he's out there staring at the guy that he just shot, who's pissed. So as long as your opponent can mouth the words, "I attack Punisher," you're in trouble.
Yeah.
A lot of trouble. Because it took an action to get into the van. It took a van an action to get out there. And then it took the van an action to drop the object, put the Punisher out there, and then it took an action it takes a lot of actions for this thing to go.
It does.
And there's just not enough coming out of it for the amount of work that it's doing. That's my experience with it. So I don't know.
It takes
what do you
push
guys
damage
think?
as well.
What's that?
Van takes push damage as well, right? I mean,
Well, not if it uses the resource effect, because the resource effect doesn't deal pushing damage.
oh right, it causes no pushing damage. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just thinking about turn 2 and putting Punisher back in the van, for instance,
Well,
and then using the resource to push him out of the van. And yeah, no, it won't take any push damage, but it's still, you're tokened out.
Piloting is the
turn
pilot's
2.
action.
What's that?
What's that?
Piloting is the pilot's action. So
I'm aware of that. That's why I said it in the way that I did.
Oh, okay.
So even on the first turn, like you pilot it, then you move out to get like the most kind of movement out of it. You've taken an action on the vehicle, you take an action on the pilot. Pilot doesn't clear until the next turn, so even though you take the power action to do the effect to drop the gun, and it is the Punisher who's driving it, free action to drop the Punisher, but that's still an action, the second action token on the thing. And then you free action pick up the weapon. Now you got 2 options. You either get back in the van for protection, or you shoot with this weapon you just got. Either way...
It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot for very little payoff. I was playing with it earlier tonight with Tom, and yeah, sure, I won the round, but it just... It doesn't... It's missing something,
Well,
I mean,
you basically won the round using it as a vehicle.
Yeah, you look at the Quinjet in comparison, and it's just like, wow, holy crap. Just such a huge difference, because you're paying 135 points for this thing, whereas you're paying 140 for Quinjet at its higher points. Yeah, it's 5 points more gets you something that's 10 times better.
Yeah. See, you guys basically caught up to me then, is what we're saying.
Because he liked the Quinjet all along.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
I knew the Quinjet was good. I never said it wasn't. It was just a matter of, do I have to resort to it right now? And right now the meta says yes. But again, if you had to choose a single vehicle, Punisher van versus the Turtle van, I'm more inclined to use the Turtle van because of the 4 passengers. Doesn't matter the pilot. You only get 1 passenger out of the Punisher van, right?
Yep.
Doesn't the Punisher van not even have the vehicle keyword?
It has armor.
It does, yeah, it does.
No, it just has armor.
Oh, is it armor?
No,
I
it's
thought it was
armor.
vehicle. Yeah, I think you're right.
It's
Yeah,
it's a van. Is it really a
I never
vehicle?
picked up the Turtle van. I got the Punisher van and I traded it. Ugh. No thanks.
Yeah. All right.
I haven't had an opportunity to play with the actual Turtle van myself, but the whole wording on the pizzas and the toppings and all that stuff, I don't know. You'd have to...
Oh yeah. I'll
have
give
to
it
draw
to
me
you
a
very
picture.
simply. You take a free action.
Yeah.
Choose a Ninja Turtle. Donatello, Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael.
Right.
Pick one.
Okay.
Roll a die.
Yep.
Did their colors show up? If yes, heal them. If they're already on their first click, they get +1 attack, +1 defense. That's it.
So, yeah, it's a 1 in 4 chance.
Yeah, but it's not an extra resource or anything. It's just a thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it happens, it's amazing. If it doesn't happen, it's just frequent.
Sounds mediocre.
Yeah. Like, again, it's one of those things, like, if it does, as I was just saying, if it happens, oh boy. Whether it's to heal or the +1 attack, +1 defense, your opponent's about to win. But if it doesn't happen, move on with my day. There wasn't a green battery across for me anyway, so I'm okay. As long as there's a modern game. We've kind of gone at length. Tom, did you have anything you add before I...
Not really. I would like to say that the jury is still out for the Punisher van as far as I'm concerned. I know that our experiences collectively haven't been that positive yet, but I haven't lost faith yet. I believe there's something there. I just haven't figured it out. Well, what map would we make?
Oh, if I was to choose a map, he already said the Sanctum Sanctorum, so I need a second to think. Tom, what about you?
Honestly, I wouldn't do a specific location. I really like water maps. We don't have enough of them, and I think it would be neat to do basically a map. In my mind, I call it the Deluge, that has a number of different elevations, and the special rules are that there's basically a counter on that you can collect on dice, and as the game goes forward, it fills with water elevation by elevation, so that as the game goes on, the map is getting progressively flooded from the bottom up. It's a variation on a water map because I love water maps. Another just pure water map would be a little boring, so I think it would be neat to have something that has a special rule.
Right, progressively
like
filling it.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I like that idea. I think I'd go for something more along the lines of a maze with some like indoor blocking. So you'd actually have to. Well, first of all, I'd probably put it only 1 square apart. So you'd have just like a gutter in between each one, and really the whole idea is limiting larger than peanut base characters from actually playing on it at all. And making it so that you actually have to move through and there's no way to fly over it or anything like that. You have to go through the gauntlet in order to get somewhere, and there would be water and different hazards along the way, and there might even be some special orange terrain that has a roll a die effect on it somewhere in there. I've done a little bit of preliminary map design, and I'm actually very interested in possibly designing some maps at some point, and hopefully with the contacts I have with the Rocket, it may be possible in the future. Anyway, that said, I think having some kind of a maze with indoor blocking, really hindering movement, and then encouraging movement at different points. Like it could be that the orange text itself becomes blocking based on a die roll at different points. So you'd have, you're going down this pathway and you're going towards another enemy to be able to engage them, and then you roll your die at the beginning of your turn and it suddenly becomes blocking there. So either you have to punch your way through or you have to find another way through. It just kind of adds some complexity to the game to be interesting.
That'd be cool.
Almost like a scenario.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be problematic to make a map that literally just makes your opponent's team impossible to be played. Like, the way you said it, you want to stop bigger than peanuts, so...
Yeah, it's not something that necessarily would be modern legal, but it would be fun to play on.
Oh, yeah, I mean, theoretically, if you could do it for a scenario, that would be fun, but otherwise... Like,
I can't shut out an entire portion of the game.
No.
If I want it to be modern legal or anything like that. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's like when you're playing a team without flyers, and then your opponent would pick the Drowned Wakanda map that didn't have the special Atlantis, whatever, rule, so that water worked as normal. It just really sucked.
Yeah.
It's the same principle.
Yeah, well,
I think maybe a Rock of Eternity map would be fun, depending on what you could do.
That'd be cool.
Pretty.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Then maybe if we could get a Wizard Shazam to go with it, that would be pretty cool. Considering that we've gotten a relatively nice amount of Shazam characters.
How many Wizard Shazams have there been? Just one?
Well, there was the one as him, and then there was the one from Brave and the Bold where Billy was the wizard.
Right, yeah, the white suit Billy.
That's what I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah.
There was 2, and there was the old Chase.
Old man one.
Yeah,
Right.
like, yeah. Just it's surprising we haven't gotten something like that, just considering how many all of these versions of these characters are spectacular.
I put a little extra thought into it, and I was thinking to myself, they made a map called Bizarro World. But was it really the whole world? I think it was just a city in Bizarro World. So let's go a little crazy and go with the swamps of Bizarro World. Or the jungles of Bizarro World. Because I think those would be wacky if you think about the world.
The swamp of Bizarro World would be a desert, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, I remember the Bizarro World map being really cool with the way the buildings kind of were, but at the same time, people wanted to really, it was really a competitive choice to play the Blue Beetle's vehicle, and then it was like, well, I can beat it with the Bizarro World map. I don't want that to happen again. But I do want to see another wacky Bizarro World map. I want to say I'm choosing Bizarro World as my map again. And Bizarro World is a world. Let's go crazy, guys. Let's just go hog. All right. On that, we move now to... All right. Now, unfortunately, Chris Stockhouse's question was already answered mostly because a lot of people are asking about the Punisher van. And I think we've kind of posited our opinion on it. As far as the future of it, let's see what happens. Because he doesn't want to say, like, what's the future, the Metal Lab crystal ball on it. Because Quinjet is a thing, I don't see it.
It is outclassed by the Quinjet, absolutely. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it doesn't have its place, but unfortunately, it's too similar.
Yeah.
To not also just be better, for the Quinjet not to be better in every way.
Yeah. But again,
You could play it without the resource. And
exactly.
Use, for instance, the Civil War Punisher inside and make it a little bit more interesting in that way. Have it move across the map for its RAM purpose, and then pop out that really good Punisher that we just got, and with his multi-dice attack, and do some real damage. It's not to say that it's going to be absolutely gone. It's just our experience so far has not shown any promise.
Yeah. And Chris does present the idea of the Morlock, getting turned into, or the Morlock Proteus situation where Proteus kills the Morlock, Proteus is on the board, Proteus pilots the Punisher van. Well, if you have a big enough team, I still say the Turtle van's a better option because you can carry 4 characters.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly go around ramming with good values, and you start with running shot, so you get running shot with pulse wave. So, sure.
But how useful is the 4 characters carrying going to be if the whole idea of that team is to make Proteus happen, and then if you want to do that, you can't have other characters you can be equipped onto?
Yeah,
So,
they would be. You could do it with Ultron drones. Yeah. So
theoretically, you could do that team, but that's like very specific.
That is very specific. You're right.
Yeah. And of course, that same strategy is being employed with a Quinjet build.
I would also I don't know. The Turtle Van doesn't have RAM, does it?
The Turtle van does not have RAM.
Yeah. I don't know if that's all you were doing is putting Proteus onto something to pilot it. Then I think the right answer is the Quinjet. Failing that, then I guess the Punisher van has potential.
Yeah. All right. Next up, McConnell Lamar. I haven't heard from him in a while. It's good to hear see him
Very
show
much
up.
so.
What is your favorite Colossal Retaliation and why?
The Atom. Sorry, I wanted to answer for us all. It's just easier that way.
Yeah, it is a lot easier.
It's the Atom.
I was going to go classy and say, if you would have asked me about 3 weeks ago, I'd have said a Superman, Batman, robot, because I like the imagery that offers of it going, boom, and blowing everything up around it. But yes, the Atom is
definitely. The Atom is the right answer.
Yeah.
Because I say the Atom pending Stiltman not being released yet.
Yeah. Fair. Stiltman's number 1.
Especially considering that Stiltman doesn't die in one hit like every Colossal Retaliation.
I also want to point out, Stiltman's Colossal Retaliation doesn't have the limitation of if another Colossal Retaliation has occurred. So, Atom followed by Stiltman?
Especially considering that the Atom has Empower, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Atom. I think in addition to how good his actual retaliation is, he has a good keyword, and he has other things on the dial that do things. So
Everything is better about the Atom. He has better keywords. He has other things on his dial that do things. He can be brought in by an ID card. He's super cheap, and he has the best calls for retaliation. So it's just the odds are stacked in his favor.
Brimstone has a pretty good one too, in addition to penetrate and poison. And he's a robot that might have better. TS.
I built with Solaris a little while ago on a robot themed team, and that was pretty good. But I do have to say the Atom is better. By far.
I see where Jay's going with Brimstone, but Brimstone suffers from the idea of, 1, a D6 roll, 2, reducers. Now, after that, he does have poison, but you still have to place him to a certain degree that's going to make that worth it. So it's beaten by positioning and a number of things. And Brimstone costs 5 points more. So just on pure value and what's ignored by the Atoms, I think just Atom is so much better.
Yeah.
All around.
Agreed.
You're seeing a lot of teams that have 2 Atoms, whether or not it's just straight up playing 2 or even playing 1 and then 1 with ID card.
Yeah.
So
I may or may not have recently acquired a second.
Yep.
That makes it easier to borrow.
Unless I'm using both.
That's right. Yeah. I hear that the Canada Cup's coming up.
I hear that. I hear that.
I heard that you like the soldier
hear
keyword as well.
I hear things, but the doctors tell me I shouldn't be hearing them.
Pretty soon you'll be hearing the ringing.
Next up, Travis Wellams. Just curious if I missed in a previous episode of Tom's charts for the Civil War OP set, or if you guys didn't do them for the OP sets. I always look forward to the breakdowns we said. We did do one for Civil War.
We did do one. I can't remember what episode it was in, and if I check now, it'll come in through my mic. But
I'll look it up.
The answer to that question is very straightforward. Check a few of the more recent episodes, and it was definitely in there.
Yeah, it was within the past, I'm going to say, no, it wasn't more than 4 weeks ago. So within the past 4 weeks.
I can actually figure it out here in just a second while we go on with the rest of the questions.
Yeah. And this is one I think all of us can get a good, well, at least the 3 of you can get really jump in on this one. Nicholas Williams Steve Brown. I am visiting downtown Toronto on Thursday from the States. Any good comic book stores you guys would recommend?
Sure. Silver Snail.
Yeah, Silver Snail. Silver Snail is the big one. 1 million is the second big one.
Well, and they just moved, too. They have a nice new location.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 1 million, that is.
Yep.
And if you want to go for smaller stuff, there's Labyrinth on Bloor Street near Spadina. They deal mainly, they have a few single issues, but it's mainly graphic novel format or trade paperback, depending on how you want to say it. And BMV actually has tons and tons of comic books, and they're cheaper there. So that's another option.
Check out 401 Games while you're around there too. It doesn't do comics, but it does do a lot of cool stuff. And Harry Tarantula is also a good source of trades and stuff.
Yeah, and hey, if you're around on a Wednesday, you should come down to the Wizard's Cache. And you can meet me and probably Tom, because he's there most of the time. And Jay, of course. Don't want to forget about Jay.
Yeah, I exist.
He's a real thing. It's weird, I know. But
I'm not a figment of your imagination.
Let him out of his cage every once in a while. And occasionally Jason will show up too. So there is that possibility there. Or if you're around on a Saturday, you can go out to Brampton to the Comic Warehouse. So basically you leave Toronto, and there's nothing, and then there's the Comic Warehouse, and there's nothing else around it. It's just this desolate, weird, not Toronto place. Yeah. In fact, there's a GO station very nearby if you're not driving. So that's another opportunity for you. And on Thursdays, 401 Games has their tournament as well. So check out the Win and sign up. This week, we have our Civil War month too, so there's probably little to no chance of actually getting into it. I believe it's completely full at the moment. But next week, we will have something fairly casual going on. I don't know what it is yet because I haven't made it up. Anyway, that should help you.
Also, episode 81 is when we did the charts for Civil War.
There it is. There it is.
Well, thanks for wasting
If you're visiting the United States, the GO train is a Greater Toronto Area commuter train. because it's not doesn't always roll off the tongue, and it's not local transit. It's actually it helps stretch the distance from city to city.
Yeah, like there's the downtown transit, and then there's the go transit, which is around kind of the center of the city.
Yeah. All right. That's about it for fan questions this week. Very short selection of fan questions this week. But as always, if you want to add your questions or topics, make sure you keep your eyes on us at facebook.com/marriedwithclicks, or throw them in the comments as the videos are live, or throw it in the comments section. We'll check just before the last video. A couple people got caught off guard as we kind of turned the language button off on this show last week. I apologize if you were watching with children. Oops. As I said recently, we discovered that there was classrooms of children watching our shows, but not this one. So, fair game. Naughty language will ensue occasionally.
We can't be foul.
We'll not yell at our guys for it. Though, we'll still try to avoid using swearing as commas, and we'll just use it when it's like, oh my goodness, kind of reasoning.
The F and
Yeah, I don't have to go effing this, effing that, effing this. Oh,
that's how you really talk, though. That's actually how you speak in real life.
I know it's how I speak in real life.
Don't you know how you talk?
I don't need, I came from a kitchen. That's like a step up in swearing from sailor. And not much of a step, but it's a step.
A little one. It's a half step.
I make them go, Jay, do you really need to swear so much? Dude, you spent years out in the sea. Yeah, but really? Especially in practice. Practice is where you hear me at my worst.
Oh my God! Throw some dice, Jason. Throw some dice. Come on.
Practice night Jay. Avoid him at all costs.
Terrifying.
You probably would injure people if there were more people around just throwing your dice.
My dice learn lessons. Some people are part of those lessons.
They learned those people the lessons.
Yeah. But before I head out, guys, is there anything else you want to add before we leave, Tom?
No, sir. Looking forward to celebrating your impending nuptials at the end of this week.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be
I
awesome.
won't be there. Oh well.
All right.
There you go.
I don't know what to say.
Thanks, jerk.
Also, on August 6th and 7th, there will be the ROC Canada Cup here in Toronto. That will be posted on the WIN later this week. You'll be able to sign up. I believe it's going to be $25 to enter, 25 Canadian, so really cheap for you Americans. And you are welcome to come up and play in our national event, our brand new Rock National event. Mm-hmm. There's also going to be a Winamap at Comic Shop 2 on Bank Street in Ottawa on the 16th, which we alluded to earlier in this broadcast. It is on the WIN right now. It is on HC Realms as well, so check it out. My friend Steve is running it out there. And the winner, once again, will get free entry into the Canada Cup. I know it's just a Winamap, but it's a hell of a good time. And we are going to be most likely making that road trip out ourselves. It's a 6-hour drive, but who cares? Let's do it.
And I'll be recovering from a patron hangout.
Yeah, you'll be sleeping in the backseat.
Jay?
You just really don't want Canadians to win our Canadian events, do you guys?
That's the plan. No Canadians.
Let's have all the Americans win.
I just want high attendance. That's what I want, so that we can have more events.
I don't
because
know
it's cumulative.
I don't know if you watched Champ Chat when I was talking with Patrick, but we both started kind of looking at the price of airfare to each other's rock national cups, because there's in the U.S. it's in Vegas, up here it's in Toronto,
Vegas
and
is
we were
cheap
both talking
flight.
about it, and in the meantime looking it up on our various.
When is the Vegas one?
I don't remember the date now off the top of my head.
I'll look it up, whatever.
Yeah,
It's a cheap flight, too.
But you know what? If you check out with our sponsors at hcrealms.com, you click that rock tab, and you click the what is it? Rock events. Rock events. There's major events or something, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, rock major events. There they are. Major events, which is the second tab on that on that section. You get a spreadsheet full of all of these awesome events that are coming up. And oh my goodness, where is it? Origins, Tulsa, U.S. The U.S. Cup is actually
August
on August 20th.
So it's
that is
possible
a
to go to both.
Gamers Paradise in Las Vegas, Nevada.
I actually think I can go to that.
Yeah.
So.
So cheap.
Viva Las Vegas, guys!
Money.
Oh, Amber just shot me a nasty look. I don't know.
You know, you're supposed to live until the wedding, right?
Nothing. Anyway, so while you're at HCRealms.com, check out the Rock section to find out about events like this. As well, use that unit section for all your cool HeroClix collectible need or collection tracking needs. And check out the shop, buy some stuff, some cool HeroClix related paraphernalia, and use the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off of your purchase there. Goes to support the channel a little bit. And check out MajesticCCG.com. Check out the /Apex-Insiders premium site, $3 per month, gets you access to articles, premium articles written by various writers of varying levels of HeroClix community involvement, be they popular on YouTube like myself and Amber, be they former champions like or upcoming champions. I think Easton Brock is snaking his way to the Rock World Cup.
He is due.
Coming. But Easton Brock, Paris Gordon, Patrick Iboko himself, who actually runs the site as well. A lot of great names in the HeroClix community are all writing for that site. So check it out. It's worth your $3 per month quite frequently. But without further ado, guys, whether you're being silly, whether you're being awesome at HeroClix, it doesn't really matter. Just always remember that practice
makes
your
team.
Oh, I lost my. Oh.
No.
I had this image of Bizarro, and it was supposed to be like, don't use the seams you saw here, and it's gone. Oh, well, better.
Good night, everyone.
Good
night, everybody. Thanks for watching.